Welcome one, welcome all to the Ramble Report episode 8. If I'm not mistaken, I think we're already on our eighth episode here as we're rambling and reporting, Loon.
Yeah,
We're
racking them up.
making our making our way to 10. It's we gotta first start off. We appreciate the hell out of you guys watching these, man. These have been doing really well for the channel, so we love it. We love sitting here rambling about the news and talking shit, and this is an awesome show. It's really really fun to put together, really fun to do, and when the viewership is climbing and the feedback is good, we're pumped as hell to do it. So thank you all so much for tuning in. It's definitely one of those things like when you see the feedback and you see the reception and you see it kind of growing bit by bit, it's like you get more and more motivated to work really hard on it. So we appreciate y'all all so much for tuning in to the old Ramble Report.
Absolutely.
Well, dude, we got some big news, so I don't want to ramble too much in this opening. Just got a lot to get into. But before we get into it, I do have I'm nervous. I'm nervous. I feel the heart rate increasing. I don't like promoting things. Don't like plugging shit. Never done this on the internet. Um we officially launched our Patreon. We officially launched our YouTube membership program, and it's the same pricing, same plans, same exclusive content that you get no matter if you are more familiar with Patreon, you can go there. If you're more familiar with the YouTube membership structure, you can go there. But it's the same thing. Like, so right now, I wanted to get out the gate where putting an exclusive video out there out the gate that is like high quality. It's edited to hell and back. It is, solid production. I have tons of it's my top 10 favorite albums of all time. It's the first exclusive Patreon or YouTube member video that's available. And I put it out there as kind of like I didn't want to make the first video just I wanted to immediately let people know the type of content that they're going to get. I didn't want the first video to be like just straight up thanking people and I do that for like 10 minutes at the beginning of the first video where I go through and I'm like, telling people why I'm excited for this endeavor and thanking anyone that's tuning in. But I wanted people to get an actual idea for the quality of the content that they're going to be getting if they choose to support over on Patreon or become a YouTube member. So that is available right now.
And I'll
I think
pull that
Luna
up.
has it.
Yeah, I'll pull it up now.
Yeah,
I was gonna let you talk, and then we can run through it.
totally.
If it is up, yeah. Here we have it.
So, and I want to be very clear out the gate. This is not going to be a thing like our game plan with the Ramble Report is since it's been doing well, that's kind of priority one for us. And I want to post another free piece of content every single week. That's like kind of the main goal right now with the channel. I think that's it seems that that's what people respond to the best when they have a little bit of separation between the videos opposed to dropping smaller clips every single day. It seems like having a little bit of separation, people are responding to that a little bit better. And a lot of the videos are longer, so I do understand that. And so we're looking at one Ramble Report each week for free and one or two additional free pieces of content each week as well. So I don't want people to think that we're locking shit behind Patreon, like, top 10 albums. I would never put that on Game and Ramble's YouTube channel because it's not gaming related and the algorithm would kill it. And so that's the other thing is I don't have to think about the algorithm. I don't have to think about monetization. I don't have to think about copyright. So I got minute long clips of songs in there just to
Yeah.
because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's demonetized to hell and back, but I never planned on monetizing it.
Mm.
The people who tune in and choose to support, they're monetizing it for me. So yeah,
So
that
how
is
long is the video? Because it doesn't
it's an
say.
it's an hour long. It's an
Okay.
hour long fucking ramble about my favorite albums. It's a lot of stories, like sitting there like an old man telling stories from his youth, and it's kind of a more. I'm not saying, listen, I'm not fucking going on there and divulging crazy personal details about my life or anything like that. I'm just not that type of person. I'm a fairly private person. I get nervous about talking about myself. I don't really like talking about myself, especially on the internet. But I
Mm,
do kind of think that that's sort of what Patreon is going to be more so is like, you and I get together to do a top 10 fucking I don't know, some top 10 video or we come together to talk about some random topic that doesn't have anything to do with games and I don't want to like that's another thing. I don't want to sign you up for all of this extra fucking work. I'm gonna try to make sure that I'm, recording something solo to go up on Patreon at least once a month is my game plan. But
mm,
every now and then I feel like you and I could probably hop on there and discuss something, maybe discuss like our hopes and dreams for this channel, the future of gaming ramble, like just shit like that we couldn't really put up on here.
yeah, that's what I was about to say. It's a completely untapped thing because we have so many other things we could chat about and talk about, but you can't post them on the channel because it would be detrimental because of how an algorithm works.
Yeah,
So yeah, absolutely, we can jump on and talk about anything. There's
totally.
tons of stuff that there's crossover of interest that we have, and also it's also even if there isn't a like you with wrestling and stuff, I'd happily sit there and listen. It's enjoyable to listen to someone speak passionately about something and then pick their brain on it,
Yeah,
like what got you into the hobby and stuff like that. So tons and
absolutely.
tons
Yeah.
of different things.
And it's going to be so I guess let's go ahead and we'll break down the tiering structure for Patreon and for the YouTube memberships. That way people have an idea for what they're getting and what the price. I Some of this stuff is definitely going to change over time. Specifically, there's one tier in there that I think I'll probably remove altogether just because yeah, we'll get into that. But by and large, the base of the channel, the base of the structure for Patreon and the YouTube memberships, we have the $2 exclusive drop tier. And that is where you'll pay $2 a month and you will get all the exclusive content that is are all the exclusive videos and podcasts that go up on Patreon and on the YouTube membership program. You'll get all like so the top 10 albums that'll be available. I'm building a list of my top 10 movies and I want to shoot for, I'm going to make sure without a doubt you get one exclusive piece of content every single month. Every single month, you will get one exclusive piece of content. I would love to say every single week you're going to get something new, but the reality of it is
Mm,
just that I'll die.
yeah, I
I
think
don't have
I
any
think
time
we'll
left.
set it for once a month and be smart because
Yeah,
there will be times where, for instance, content dries up, and what I mean by that is like when the release schedule dries up. So you may have a thing where you'd be like, oh, I could put out more and stuff like that, but that's not going to be the reality across the board. So maybe just keep it at once a month so that you're not stressing.
totally.
I think that's the more
Yeah,
smart option.
agreed, man. And that's the thing is like if there is a time or if there is, like you said, fewer releases coming out, fewer time, less of a time commitment of playing the games, less of a time commitment of doing this, or less of a time commitment of just work and real life shit. Then that's when I'll try to bank some videos. And then in the hopes of, I would, in my perfect world scenario, I would like to have at least two exclusive pieces of content available every single month for patron supporters. But I'm going to commit without a doubt one exclusive piece of content every single month. Um, I don't give a shit if that's only going out to one person. If there's one person in there that's supporting, they're going to get one exclusive piece of content every single month. And then so we have the $5 tier, and this is for you can at the $5 tier, I'm going to post a thread every single week on Patreon and for YouTube members. So every single week, if you sign up at this $5 tier, you will be able to submit questions for this show. And it's not just like submit questions. You can say, hey, guys, Hit me with your top 10 PS2 games. You can suggest like full blown topics. It doesn't have to
Mm.
be just, you know, hey Brandon, what's your favorite color? Hey Loon, what's it like? It doesn't. You can ask like legitimate segments for a show. You can kind of build around. Now, keep in mind, it's going to be segments for this show, meaning that it's it won't be like 50 minutes. It'll be 5 to 15,
Yeah.
5 to 20 minutes, somewhere in that range. But we, once again, we have such a small community. That's kind of the benefit of it is that, listen, if I'm being completely realistic, what do I expect from this output wise? I would max 5, 10 people sign up for this thing out the gate. I'm not expecting much more than that. So if we get 5, 10 questions, and that's the thing too, if 10 people sign up, probably only 4 of them, 3 of them are going to ask weekly questions, something like that, maybe even less. So we can spend some serious time diving into these questions. And obviously, over time, if things change and we have hundreds of patrons and then we're rolling in the dough, and then it's at that point, it's like, okay, well, fuck, we'll just create a brand new weekly show
Mm.
and have a full another podcast because it's being funded and supported financially,
Yeah.
and we can find the we can feasibly make that kind of that altern alternate programming solution. I don't know what the fuck wording I'm trying to come up with there.
We can
Um,
pivot into it instead of with this. It's the beginning of the foundation, isn't it?
yeah,
And if it begins to start to take off, then it slowly begins to fade from being a hobby to and a hobby filled with passion into hopefully something that we can make into a the end goal is a career, but obviously that's wishful thinking. So hopefully
absolutely.
some people just gel with it at the end of the day. Like we're happy with, like you said, even if 5 people
100%, man.
like hop in and stuff like that, like that would be absolutely awesome to see.
Yeah. Um, so from there we have the $10 tier, and this is the shout out tier. So if you, and keep in mind, if you lock in at $5 a month, you're also going to get all the benefits of the $2 a month. If you lock in at $10, you're going to get all the benefits of the $5. You like, so if you support at a higher tier, you get all the benefits of the tier below it. But the $10 a month tier is the shout out tier. So at the end of each episode, we'll shout you, whatever username you have for your YouTube membership or for your Patreon subscription, we'll shout out that name. So just make sure, it's the name that you want us to shout out, and let's not make it a racial slur,
Yeah,
please. Pretty please.
yeah. Keep it somewhat in the realms of okayness.
I'll drop some crazy fucking yeah, if you have a crazy username, I'll throw it out there. Let's just like not make it overly fucking racist, please. Um, let's see. And so that one's pretty self-explanatory. And then the $25 a month tier, this is the one I was talking about that I think I'm probably going to remove. This is the promote your business tier. I think it's called promote yourself.
Hmm.
Promote yourself. Express yourself. Yeah, that's not the most fucking creative, but um, I think I'm probably gonna. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, before we jump into, I think as well, obviously we're fully open to changing any of these as well. None of this is set, chiseled in stone, and that's it. You know, whatever we're gonna obviously listen to feedback, and because I can see why it would make you feel uncomfortable with that kind of tier, but it's just trying to fill. Because how many did they have you fill out? Do you have to fill out a certain amount for tiers?
No, they recommend having a bunch, but
Okay,
yeah, we could easily just completely cut this one.
okay.
Um, and so my reasoning for cutting this or potentially cutting this one is just because I don't know if it necessarily looks good for advertisement, like in terms of big advertisers. If they stumble upon the show and they're like, "Hey, we can," like, I would only want this to be for small businesses or for YouTube channels or podcasts or
Okay.
people who are trying to have a few thousand people a month see their, because we probably get, I would say on average, I can tell you on average, uh we get about 10,000 views a month on the channel.
Mm.
So if you were someone who would benefit from 10,000 eyeballs seeing your podcast or seeing your YouTube channel, and you can kick a quick $25 and you think that's worth it, it's like that's kind of what I wanted this to be for. And like, I don't definitely will not be advertising big businesses for $25. Like, if you're a bigger company and you want advertisement, you're going to pay big company rates. You know what I mean? I don't want this to be like have some, kind of wiggle into a shout out that I don't know. Yeah, I might have to cut that tier completely.
Okay.
Um, and then, okay, so we got a $50 tier. And this is pretty much what the idea for this is. Listen, I don't recommend anybody spending $50 because you can go and spend $5 and get a shorter version of what you could spend $50 on. $50 is specifically for someone that's like, hey, listen, I don't want my topic or question in the Ramble Report. I want a full like hour plus long podcast
Mm.
or hour plus long video about a specific topic. So at the $50 tier, you are the podfather. You can tell Loon and I to get together and we will podcast about any topic of your choice. So if you're like, hey, we want you to rank every fucking the entire launch lineup of the PS2, or we want you to rank your top 100 PS2 games, stuff like that, which obviously could never fit into a segment for a podcast. We would have to, if that was something that was suggested at the $5 the question and answer thread, we would have to take that and kind of bend it into, okay, well, we can't do our top 100, but we'll do a top 10 and make it 20 minutes, make
Mm.
it 10 minutes. If you're like, hey, top 100, and we want that shit to, be as long as it's going to be, 3+ hours, like the top 100 360 games. That's kind of what that's for. So it's just like an immediate way to get whatever damn piece of content you want out of us that will be made at that $50 tier. So that's the idea for that. It's not, once again, it's not a tier I would ever recommend unless you're just like, I'm yearning for this one thing that these assholes, they just want this one piece of content that they just won't create.
Ranking all the
um
Zelda games. Woo.
and of course, there are things like that where if we're just not well versed in it, we'll hit you back with a message and be like, this just isn't our, we don't know anything about this topic. Is there anything else you would like? And we'll kind of work together
Yeah.
to find the solution to that. But yeah, and and of course, if we can't find a solution, I'll cash app your money back or some shit like that. I don't even know how all this stuff works for refunds, but
Mm.
um yeah, that's more so if you just want some long form shit instead of it's something more than just a Q&A kind of 5 to 20 minute long answer. You want a full hour plus long breakdown of something.
Yeah. Your
And
very own curated product.
yeah, yep. And of course we'll shout you out and we'll you know plug you and be like, "Hey, this is created because of blank
Yep.
on Patreon, their support, blank on YouTube membership side of things, their support. It's coming to you sponsored by this fella or this lady."
Mm.
So, yeah. I feel like we're in a good rhythm right now, and that's kind of why I wanted to drop this.
Hmm.
The Patreon YouTube membership thing is because like it, while we were finding our footing, which we're still definitely finding our footing, but at least we have like the Ramble Report seems like this can be the foundation.
Yeah.
This can be like the main thing.
Hmm.
And then everything else around it is still mendable.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I felt like it was a good time to drop this where there's some stability in the programming that people can kind of come to expect us for. So,
And you can correct me if I'm wrong. It was the thing as well where we were obviously still finding our footing and we were putting videos out and we had several of them where they did really well from like an engagement side of things, but they didn't get pushed. And if anything, it was really unfortunate because they ended up affecting other stuff, right?
yeah,
Where it
yeah,
was like I can't. I like. It's just unfathomable to have something where like the comment section is popping off, and the view rate is really good, but nothing happens. Like the view rate of inside the subscriber base is good, but it just makes no splash outside of it. And then it starts to seep in. You put out another one because you're like, okay, well, it's time to move on. Because that's the thing as well, isn't it? It's such a weird thing finding the timing to upload that next video. There's so many moving parts, and I think with this, it will just give us a little bit more leniency because then you, like you said, with your the music one that you've done, um, you're not going to be like if you put that up on the channel, that would punish every other piece of content because the way YouTube
Yep.
functions, and it's so unfortunate that's the way that it is. It's so unfortunate. So this just gives us, a little bit more breathing room in being a little bit more creative, and yeah, I think that's really cool.
Yeah, 100%. And it's also the thing where, like, if you want the Wheel of Games to return, or if you want overrated or underrated to
Mm.
return, if you want any of those topics, those, games about games that were doing really well in terms of engagement, likes, comments, all of that, but just didn't get good views, just drop it in that $5 tier. We'll bring that shit back. And if you want a longer form version, I still wouldn't recommend supporting at $50 unless it's just something that's like,
Are we
really,
really your favorite? Could
no,
we?
fuck no. And that's the thing is like I don't a part of me didn't even really want to include the 25 or the 50, but it is the 25 I probably will remove just because it's like I don't know. I don't really like that being there. But the 50, it's like I just kind of think of that as I would kind of like to have that option for some of the podcasts that I watch where I could drop them $50 and be like MinMax, this is something I've always wanted MinMax to do so bad. And I obviously they're way too big to do this because they'd have hundreds of people
Yeah.
dropping $50 and wanting their piece of content. There's just not enough time. But I crave MinMax doing retrospective game of the year lists, like going back and doing
Mm.
a 2000 ranking, a 2001 ranking, a 2002 ranking. I'd not even joking, I'd probably send them like $250 to do that. Like I love that I'm not even joking, their end of the year game of the year fucking debate. I look forward to that more than any holiday. Like that is the more than my birthday, more than Christmas, more than that is like I look forward to that more than fucking anything. So that was kind of my thought process behind the $50 thing is like
Yep.
if there's just something you really want, we can make it happen because we have such a small community. I could never I don't imagine one person signing up for that $50 a month thing. So it's not like we're going to be stretched thin. If someone does sign up, we can record it, get that shit out there, and it won't be any issue.
I'll
So
start sending requests and start controlling the content.
yeah.
Yes. Top 100 Euro Jank incoming.
Oh man. Well, dude, that's kind of it for the plugs. I know that's a long ass ramble about nothing before we even get into the big news week that was. But is there anything you want to hit on before we jump off of this, or shall we jump into the news, my friend?
No, just obviously it'll be appreciated even if, someone signs up on the lowest tier. We're not
Yeah.
expecting, massive things. It's the uncomfortable thing because that's what we obviously want to get across as well. It's a weird thing to ask for stuff like that, but when you're making content, eventually that's a hurdle you do have to jump over. And now that we've
Yep.
jumped over it, it can just be in the background of
Yep.
something that it just exists like everything else now. In the same way that what is it that they do? We've had a few the supers, is that what they're called? Like
Yeah.
how that
And that's
just
the thing
exists in the
too.
background. So because when that would be first introduced, that's kind of uncomfortable, and now it's kind of just like, oh, that's just in that. It's just another part of the moving wall and stuff like that. It's just getting used to it, and yeah,
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Y'all can save some damn money and stop the super chats and just do the if you just want to sign up for the YouTube memberships and the Patreon and all that, or
yeah,
don't
you'll
don't
actually
sign
get
up for
you
both.
get benefits now. There you go.
Yeah,
It's a net
yeah,
positive.
absolutely. All right, Loon, let's go ahead and hop into this news that we have for the week because we have a lot of it, my friend. It's a whole hell of a lot of video game news and stuff to get into. So I this first piece of news I wanted to talk about with you specifically because this is right up your alley. Sega had a kind of they
Oh,
leaked some data
oh yes, they
and
did.
it's very like this is very, very interesting. I wasn't expecting some of this data to be what it is. So we'll kind of go through bit by bit. And I think the thing that's going to jump out immediately is that Persona 5 is a juggernaut.
Mm-hmm.
Um, since fiscal year 2020, Persona 5 has sold 7.2 million copies. That is almost double what any other Sega game has sold in the last 6 years. Um, that's fucking crazy. 7.2 million copies in, you know, 6 years.
I will
I
say
wasn't expecting that.
I believe that's all of the versions combined, right? That's
Yeah.
its original release, therefore it was on because I think it released on the PS3, if I'm not mistaken. Persona 5, right? There was a
Yeah, but
PS3
once again, they're
version, PS4, and then the Royal re-release.
yeah,
But even so, that is an incredible amount of copies.
absolutely. Yeah. And then we have Sonic Frontiers at 4.5 million.
Hmm.
And that's very damn strong for a modern Sonic game, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Metaphor is sitting at 2 million, which is pretty solid with it coming out in 2024, kind of late 2024. And I assume that game wasn't crazy expensive to develop, so it's probably already profitable or close to profitable, I would assume.
Hmm.
Um, it is interesting though. Expedition 33 outsold Metaphor in less than a month after Expedition 33's release. And if I'm not mistaken, Metaphor was the fastest selling Atlas game of all time when it initially debuted. So I assume 33 is probably going to top out at 10 million sales in the next couple years. And I shouldn't even say top out. Like I think that they're going to make a whole hell of a lot of money over there at Sandfall, and just yeah, thank God that Atlas doesn't have Square level expectations. We'll get into that in a bit, but
Yeah.
um, holy shit, if this was a Square Enix release, they would have been lighting the fucking the building on, or I guess I should say Sega doesn't have Square expectations because Sega would have been lighting Atlas's building on
Yeah.
fire if that were the case and trying to fucking collect the insurance money or some shit. And then it says here that okay, let's stay with Atlas for a second. Persona 3 Remake is also at 2 million copies sold. So Metaphor is technically outpacing Persona 3 since Persona 3 released much earlier in 2024, the Persona 3 Remake. So,
Something to
you
keep
know,
in
once
mind with that, that did launch day one Game Pass, and they heavily promoted that. So that could have been why that lost a few sales. It's because some people, because it's like people like you, for instance, who have like access to everything. You're not, if you're on the fence about trying a Persona game, you'd probably opt in and try it there rather than drop the full amount of money on it. But that's still a decent amount of copies, especially considering as well they'd only just re-released it in the past few years with the portable and Persona 4 Golden. So a
yeah.
lot of people had jumped in and then they're re-jumping in again that quickly. That's still not a bad number of sales.
Totally. Yeah. Like a Dragon or Yakuza 7 has sold almost 3 million copies. Infinite Wealth has sold 1.6 million copies, and The Man Who Erased His Name has sold 900,000 copies. So, for a series with such a quick turnaround, they're pushing really, really solid numbers, and also a ton of asset reuse and those games I don't assume are incredibly expensive to make. I mean, of course, there's budget in them, but those type of sales for that type of game is pretty damn solid.
Yeah, a little bit disappointing the Infinite Wealth. seems to be so far behind. I will say though, um, it is a little bit disappointing. And yeah, they do obviously reuse assets and stuff. The worry is though that they've locked in heavily on offering English voice acting like across the board, which that will bump the budget up considerably, which they didn't have to really equate for that before. Um, but they're still okay numbers. The what was it like a dragon that erased his name? That
900,000.
that wasn't a very good showing. They also didn't market it at all. Really, it kind of just got pushed out there. I believe it didn't get a physical on Xbox. I think it got a physical on PlayStation, but I think it originally launched as like a digital only title. I think that was their mindset for a while, and then they ended up opting for it. But yeah, this is the difference, isn't it? When you look at a company that's very smart with its assets and keeps its budgets kind of contained, that when you're looking at these numbers, if this was a Square Enix thing, like you said, they would be like, "Oh my god, something needs to change," because they just balloon their budgets and they go way too overboard. And it's something like, for instance, with Metaphor, just scaling back aspects here and there from the game has probably helped them probably reach that profit, going from breaking even to breaking profit a lot quicker because they didn't expand it out a million times more than they did. There was a lot of still images. The areas were a lot smaller and stuff like that. So they're definitely a lot smarter. It feels
Yeah.
like.
This is probably the biggest surprise of the entire list, in my opinion. SMT Vengeance has sold 2.1 million copies. So it's sold almost as much as, not almost as much, but it's up there. Like it's on par with Persona 3 so far. And I know SMT Vengeance came out a while ago, but it's like, I know Yakuza 7's up there close to it's almost 3 million. So this is a little bit back from that, but like this has sold way more than I thought it would have.
Yeah, it had the benefit as well of I think this is probably because you probably hear things when you're in the industry and stuff. Like when you're Square, you hear like, oh, they're doing well, etc. and stuff like that. You have a bunch of people who are investors in this and that, and they've probably seen that or heard that Atlas obviously pursuing breaking away from being heavily shackled to say Nintendo and stuff like that, and putting their games on PC. They seem to have sold okay on them, and obviously moving stuff to Xbox, just trying to maximize as many eyes and hands on it as possible. It seems to have benefited them because it obviously SMT5 was a Switch exclusive, right, for a while, and
Yeah.
then it went everywhere else. So the thing that you're going to see more and more of is that kind of move set because it allows them to re-release a game that takes barely any effort to do because the game's already made. You're just optimizing for that system, and then you can charge basically full price for it again. It's a win-win for them because I was one of
Absolutely.
those that picked up full price because I hadn't experienced it and yeah, contributed to one of them sales figures.
I, I might have misspoke. This actually might be the craziest thing on the list. I just saw this. Total War,
Oh yeah, yeah, that
Total War 3 Kingdoms pushing over 3 million copies. Um,
same with
and
Warhammer,
then
right? There's about 2 to 3 million Total War
yes, let's
Warhammer 3.
see. Yeah. And then the Total War franchise has sold over 5 million units in the last 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
Three Kingdoms over three. I mean, this is, yeah, that's one of Sega's best selling games over the last 6 years. That's fucking crazy. Okay. Shout out.
So the thing
PC
that kind
audience.
of was a bit puzzling to me though is that obviously these are all Sega published games and stuff coming from like Atlas and stuff. There wasn't Football Manager on there, right? On
I
that list
didn't.
at all, which is really weird because it's if these are leaks, you would think all that information would be together. Like I don't that was a bit worrying to me because they're struggling over at Sports Interactive. So I don't know if they completely work like outside of say like Sega is obviously there, but are they just completely not under that umbrella, and that's why it's been so disastrous? Um, because I think Sega's ended up launching another like Football Manager kind of esque game because they're fumbling it as hard as they are, and it was kind of worrying because they were really proud of their numbers, and it was kind of weird to not see them on that list because that would have been interesting to see. Because apparently, once they moved it to console, it blew up massively.
Yeah.
Like they saw record breaking numbers that they'd never seen before.
Yeah, there's really not like one major juggernaut in this list here. You know what I mean? I think like the big takeaway is what you said. They budget properly and are able to run like a very sustainable business without needing their games to sell 20 million units a piece or have billion-dollar MMOs and live service games and all that shit. And they of course they want that. They had that Hyenas game that was in development, which was supposedly going to be like the ultimate live service game to kill all live service games and all that horse shit. But um yeah, it's kind of understanding that you can't bank on a Fortnite or you can't bank on one of those things to be the substance to be like you can try those things but you can't bank on them succeeding. So them being really wise with their franchises and budget like and not having to have crazy 50 million copies sold to consider it a success, like that's just a good sign of a healthy business in my opinion.
Yeah, and hopefully that ball keeps rolling. I think as well they're very intelligent with because I think that a recent Persona game released, but it was a mobile online game, and I think that's where they kind of pivot their live service mentality. Is they target mobile games a lot more, and they kind of just leave that console space as single player experiences because it's what their bread and butter is. And yeah, they're them numbers. There's going to be people that look at them numbers and probably be like, "Oh, that's absolutely tragic," because they look at it through like a Square Enix eye, be like, "Oh, well, that's not 15 million, or that's not," and it's just like their budgets are minuscule in comparison to a lot of other studios out there. Like they're really well run. Otherwise, they wouldn't keep greenlighting Yakuza games and stuff like that. Like they're fairly low numbers, but they reuse assets and stuff like that. It's why like Resident Evil was able to push over the 2 remake and the 3 remake very quickly. You just be very very smart with your resources.
And also kind of tied right into that, Persona 4 Remake is set to release late 2026 or 2027. So fiscal year 2027 or later. So, that means either like probably mid 2026 or kind of any time after that. Makes you question how far out Persona 6 is. I'm sure they have multiple teams working on like I don't honestly know anything about Atlas's working structure, if I'm being honest, team size, development process. I don't follow their games much, but um
Um,
2027 range for P4 remake or late 2026.
since they saw the booming success with Persona 5, they've not been in any rush, and that statistic shows exactly why. Like people have been clamoring for a Persona 6, but when you look at that sales chart, why are you going to rush? That doesn't make any sense when you just take your time. If you're in Atlas's shoes, you're in no rush to get the product out. Use that time to do lower scaled projects like the remakes and stuff like that, and just once that starts to slow down a little bit, then yeah, fully start focusing in and honing in on getting P6 out. But they're in no rush.
I so we got that Dawnwalker deep dive, the gameplay deep dive for the new Blood of the Dawnwalker game. And it's this 20-minute like gameplay breakdown from Rebel Wolves, the upcoming AAA vampire action RPG with the ex-CDBR talent that are behind this thing. And it's also got two of the lead directors from The Witcher 3 who are kind of leading this project. So it's one to keep your eye on. I will say, after watching this, I think it looks good. It's obviously it's very, very early footage. So I think they said pre-beta. So we're still a ways out from this thing releasing. and there's definitely some rough edges in this footage, but there's a lot of interesting ideas that I can see what they're trying to achieve, and I just
Hmm.
hope that they're able to actually pull it off. It seems like the number one complaint is that the camera's too close to the character's back, and I'm sure Loon has the footage running for y'all,
Yeah,
so you can kind of
I think that was the
whenever.
same complaint for The Witcher 3, and I think they
Hmm,
ended up patching a different camera mode in, right? There
that's what I
was,
was about to say. This
yeah,
seems easily fixable.
yeah. But it again, it all depends. When the game comes out and you see everything running as intended, there may be a reason that they chose that camera angle because it's the same thing with like the God of War reboots. That
Very
was
tight.
something where people had to adjust from coming from the other games where it was just to them it was close, wasn't it? Because it came from a camera that was held high up in the sky to you were a parrot on Kratos' shoulder. So it all depends
Yeah.
on how well the camera fluidly like comes out and stuff like that. But I think they could probably move it out a little bit more when combat's initiated, but it's not the worst.
Yeah. Yeah. And whenever they show the combat, I I don't want to be overly negative because it's really, really early on. Um, I don't think it looks necessarily incredible. The actual moment to moment combat. It kind of has this like Witcher 3 mixed with KCD 2 sort of vibe going on. There's like directional attacks
Yeah.
where you're having to pick left or right, up or down, trying to find any opening or any weakness that the enemy is showing that you can exploit. But I-
Don't
it,
forget
it
your
looks
favorite.
fine.
Don't forget your favorite mechanic, stamina meters.
Yeah. Hey, can we pause 1 second? I gotta take this work call. And you see, like on defense, it has like this similar system where you're having to watch the direction that the enemy is attacking and all that. And it, it seems a bit slower than The Witcher 3, definitely not like as slow as Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. You still got your little step back maneuver that you're doing, like Geralt would pull off in The Witcher 3, and the movement looks very similar to The Witcher 3, kind of just with that added element of the directional attacks that are similar to KCD 2. So, yeah, what do you think about the combat overall? Some of it kind of looks canned animated at times where it's like I would need to have my hands on that. I can't necessarily make a full opinion based off of this footage, obviously.
Yeah, to me it just I yearn for these games in the same way you yearn for like GTA clones and stuff like that to come back and them kind of crime sandboxes. This is what I miss from gaming is the games like Greedfall
Yeah,
and stuff like that. And like if it's why I think I've hammered this home so many times. So I'm sorry if people are sick of hearing this, but it's why I don't like when they puff their chest as I was from this company and stuff like that because it sets in expectations from so many people to be so much higher than they can probably achieve. Because what people don't understand as well is that you can have that talent, but when they were in working on The Witcher 3, you're such a well-oiled machine and you're all locked in and you're all just flowing well. It's a engine that you're all familiar with. It's all in-house. You've all worked together for years. So when people start to break away, even if you take friends with you, you're still having to build up a studio of other people who you don't know. And you kind of need to get your creative juices all on the same page and stuff like that. It's why Kojima basically cleared house when he left and took everybody he possibly could to try and make sure that his vision when he wanted to execute on it was as close to it as it could possibly be. But this doesn't look
yeah.
terrible.
No, no, God,
Um,
no. I
no,
think you're kind of right on with Greedfall, Vampire,
yeah,
like in that sort of vein is more so what I'm expecting. Like
mhm,
you're hitting it perfectly where it's like, don't look at this and think Witcher 3 level
no,
expectations. Think Vampire, Greedfall. If it can hit in that range, then that's perfect where it needs to kind of be.
yeah. I think it will. You can look at it. You can see what they've achieved already with this, and not to throw Vampire under the bus, but this looks, if they were to release it right now, it would be on par with it because they didn't have as much of a budget to throw at Vampire as this has.
Totally.
Seemingly, they have a massive publishing budget, and this is pre-beta that they've got here, so it's only going to get better. But it looks really good from what I'm
I think
seeing.
they got Yeah, I think they got Chinese money back in it. I think that
Yeah,
it's NetEase, if I'm not mistaken, that's funding this.
scoop as
So they
much
got
as you
big,
can. And
absolutely. Yep.
the biggest positive that I glean from this is the criticism that I had for it originally. It's actual gameplay. I don't care
Yep.
about stuff with like what they did with The Witcher and stuff, where show me what is actually happening inside. You're opening up the map. There's a character menu. There's inventory. There's all the systems are in place. This just needs to be polished, and
Yeah,
that gives me much more confidence and excitement to get for a project rather than just seeing, oh look, this wind effect. Oh baby, let's go. So
totally. And like you said, it's you'll have the gameplay running for people to see and all that shit. So it is like you can see that this is a video game. Like this is gonna come
yeah.
out. This is gonna release. This isn't smoke and mirrors. Um, I got a few other bullet points that I wanted to talk about here that I was jotting down because it's a big presentation and you can just let this whole thing run and
Hmm.
so people can kind of see everything that they have on offer while we talk over it. Um, they said magic in the game is very dark and kind of has this occult sort of feeling to it where the main character Cohen, he has to like carve markings into his body to be able to perform the magic in this world and
Yeah.
you can find like all different sorts of spells just by wandering the open world and also a cool detail is the open world is fully accessible from the start of the game, so you can go anywhere and do anything in any time and in any order. So like you can kill the final boss moment one into the game. You're not going to be able to because you're not going to be leveled up enough, but I'm sure someone will do it. Someone's just going to be so fucking skilled after playing the game 4 or 5 times and they got every fucking timing and all of that down. They're just going to immediately go in, kill that final boss, have that 10-minute speed run. Um, and so they have everything kind of set up on this clock system where you have, I believe, like 23 days to go and what was the main narrative thread here? I think it's you got to go and rescue your family
Yeah.
or
It said 22
yeah.
days left. Rescue your family.
Right, right, right. And so if you know where your family is, like after you've played the game, beat the game, you know everything, you know where all the plot points kind of inevitably lead to, you can immediately go to where your family is, rescue them immediately, and then it's like, oh, cool, game complete, 10-minute speed run after you kill the final boss or whatever. And so it's kind of got that Tears of the Kingdom energy where you can tackle this story in any sort of order that you see fit. I know a lot of people were complaining about the time system where it's like, I don't want to be forced into having to do this all in 22 days. I want to be able to roam and explore. And they did kind of address that where it's like, it's more so the clock isn't necessarily as strict as it's just sort of a narrative thing, more so than like it's more of a resource than like a racing clock. And
Mm.
that's kind of how but who knows, it could end up being something where it is kind of forcing players to play a certain way and mainline the experience, which I think some people might not like.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, because you had the big division, right, when stuff like Dead Rising 1 came out, and there were some people that really enjoyed that the entire game was on the clock because it gave like a unique experience of constantly pushing you forward with the narrative. Whereas others, obviously, when you're in a sandbox kind of experience like that, you you have people who don't want to interact with the narrative at all. They'd rather go through, explore all the areas and stuff, and then tackle the narrative. So it will be interesting to see which way that leans more towards. If it's going to be very laxed and in the background, because I think KCD one also had that as like a criticism early on when they were announcing the game, saying that you had quests where you'd arrive at an area, and if you're just messing around and walking around, then the quest will just move on without you. And I think a lot of people felt that that was going to be the entire game when that wasn't really the case. It was like two quests that kind of implemented that heavily out of a whole 60-hour experience. So
Yeah.
we'll just have to
And
see.
I do like that when it's done well, like in Atomfall. I thought it was done so well. Not necessarily the clock thing, but where everything like main missions, side missions, they all feel like it's pushing you towards your main thing.
Yep.
You know, you as the character, anytime you interact with someone in this world, whether it be a side character, main character, whatever, you're trying to get information out of them that leads you back to your main path because you do have that sort of focus goal. So I kind of like the idea of it. Um, you just can't necessarily have side quests that don't feel important or don't feel like it's leading you back to the main thing because it's so main thing dependent, if that makes sense. Like you don't want to waste any time doing this side thing because you only have so much time before you got to
Yeah.
do the main thing. Um, yeah, so that's going to be interesting to see how it plays out for sure. And they're really touting freedom. Like freedom is a big, big thing that they're trying to get across here, not just with the structure of you can tackle any boss at any, any pace and take the story in any direction or any order, but it's a lot of like freedom in terms of environmental like exploration and shit. So there's this bit in here where there's like a day night cycle and you'll see different routes and different possible paths you can take when your vampire abilities are, when they come out at night. So for instance, they show in the gameplay where you're like inside of this cathedral during the day and it's all open to the public and all that. But you see the scaffolding set up next to a window. And then there's a moment at night where you have this sort of teleporting warping sort of ability that you're scaling from rooftop to rooftop and you go along and you see the cathedral that you were in during the day and you go up to a window on the outside of like the third floor or whatever and you pop open the window and you're going into this cathedral trying to gather information and you're using that same scaffolding to get down and you're like trying to avoid the people in the cathedral and then one of them spots you and that leads into a boss fight. And they were talking about how you can monitor those people in the cathedral, like there's these knights in armor and shit who are guarding the main boss of that section. They were talking about how you can kind of like go in and stealth kill them one by one so that you can just have a one-on-one fight with the boss if
Mm.
if you plan out and don't get spotted and gather information correctly. And it was also saying with that boss in that section you can um you can find more information on her throughout the game and completely avoid the boss fight by finding this information and getting to know this character better.
Ooh, see, that's good. That's good. Having exploration where you like stumble in on areas and then find information out and you're able to apply that to any part of a plot. That's always I've really appreciated that in games. The animation of like the rooftop jumping is just began running through that is actually really solid. Like the a lot of the things it's got a really strong foundation, this game.
Yeah, yeah. It's you see the double-A-edness
Yeah.
whenever you lock into like cutscenes, whenever it's kind of got the Bethesda-esque dead eyes going on, and then like some of that in the dialogue encounters. But at the end of the day, I know people are gonna pick that apart when the game comes out. Inevitably, that's just it happens every time, no matter if it's double A. There's really no kind of there's no grace for any game, and then that's fine. You're spending your fucking money, and if it might be a full price, they might consider it a triple A thing. And so it's like, yeah, sure, pick it apart. But I'm kind of okay with that stuff. That's not going to be sure. The cutscene quality isn't Death Stranding 2 levels. I don't need every cutscene to be on par with Death Stranding 2. You know what I mean?
No, you can't have that. Yeah, just want to stay on that point. We can't have it both ways. You can't have photorealistic graphics and then complain that there's 6 to 10 year gaps between like
And
there
totally.
has to be some compromise, man. And this looks good enough to have released on these generation of consoles. It looks fine.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Yeah, I'm digging it. I'm digging what we're seeing. Obviously, once again, keep those expectations, what happened?
You can walk up walls?
Oh yeah, I should have mentioned that. That's a whole different ability. They have the
Oh
name
my
for it. I'll find
goodness.
it. Let's see. Da, 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 da. Yeah, okay, so
And he claws down it when he's like dropping that. See, just stuff like that. Even though it says pre-beta, just having them things in place, having all of these things already pre-built. When he was walking around the city, and you just have guards like bashing on people's doors and interacting, and there's conversations going back and forth. This is a lot further along than I thought it would have been when they announced it, because it's only been recently announced, right?
yeah, yeah, no, it was announced not long ago at all.
Like it's crazy how far along they are.
Yeah, they I think it's called Shadow Step when you leap from rooftop to rooftop. And I guess I didn't jot down the other ability whenever you scale up. But yeah, it's got multiple romance options in there. Um, full skill trees for your vampiric abilities and all of that good shit is lining up and looking decent. Once
Mm,
again, keep expectations reasonable, but I'm really, really excited to check this thing out.
yeah, I'm there day one.
Me too, for sure. And I know it's superficial, but I like the look of the character. It's kind of got like that Loki, early Avengers, Tom Hiddleston sort of vibe going on, like kind of dark and brooding, but also, I don't know, a little charmer. There's a little charmer in there.
I just like the aesthetic of the entire game. Like
Yep.
I know we was talking about like it doesn't need to be photorealistic. It's got a good style. This game. Some of the characters, like you said, they're not there, or
Yeah.
like perfectly. But I don't know. I kind of like that the style that the game is building up to. It's dark enough.
Totally. All right, well, let's talk Xbox. It's time to talk about the old box of X. They're in the news every single week. They're the biggest publisher in the world. They got a lot of shit to talk about. And now they're not only the biggest publisher in the world, they're getting their storefront set up for the next generation of Xbox consoles. I would assume this is kind of the push that we're going to see going forward. They pretty much aggregated all of their PC libraries to where, and you can explain this better than I can probably, Loon, but they essentially, the setup is once you open your like Xbox PC app or whatever the fuck, you can now go in and access your full Steam library when you're on PC, right?
So there is a caveat with that, um, because I saw that get announced, right, and then I booted up the PC app, and I was like, ah, and I went back to the thing, and it's like, oh, insiders, duh. So I went and reapplied to the insider program and got back in because I'd been in there previously. It's it's very very early, and you're talking. So how it works is there was a lot of people trying to tout around that it's a lot more impressive than it is. All it is doing is if you have Steam on your PC, which people most likely do, and you have the Xbox app, whatever's installed on Steam will show up in your Xbox app. That is it. It's really low res pictures, like it's very early work here. And then all it will do is place that in the library. You can click it, and it will just boot it, and it will just run through Steam. So it's just an executable. That is it. Like you're
Yeah.
not getting it's not running through Xbox. Like this isn't pulling it into its store and then it's natively on Xbox. Like you're still running it through Steam. It's just these things have existed already. Steam already had that, where you was able to manually add games. GOG already has that as a thing. So this is just Xbox also adding that. So this is not so impressive for the PC audience. It's just whether or not this ends up coming to the console hybrid. That is the biggest thing.
Yep.
There was a ton of people that were touting it as being, oh, it's mind blowing. It's like they've caught up to every other storefront on PC. That's good, cool. This needs to then be implemented on the console side of things. Otherwise, this is this doesn't do anything. This isn't going to convince people to go, oh, well, I'm going to go now move to Xbox from Steam. That's not happening. And they also, yeah, like I said, they really need to fix up the pictures they're using because it's like 140p resolution. It's very apparent. All it does is it puts a little Steam icon on it, and then there you go. I don't
And
think
so I guess
GOG
that's
supported though, which was a weird thing. I don't know if that's changed since, but when I was running it, it was Epic and Steam that it was pulling the libraries from, and I have GOG. I have stuff installed on GOG. And if I'm being 100% honest, that's the storefront I want them to be pally pally with, because there's so many good GOG games that if you was to pull that onto console, they have such a good preservation program.
yeah,
Xbox wouldn't need to focus on trying to do their own backwards compatibility stuff because you could just piggyback off of that. That's what I want to see.
totally. Well, and I guess that's kind of the main talking point here is like this just seems to be them positioning that next console to have this sort of functionality baked into it on day one, hopefully. That's kind of the hope. Um, you know, it's I know everything comes back to the console market with me because I don't really care about the PC market, but that is sort of the only main takeaway I can garner from this is like if this is available on a console, that's going to be dope.
Yep.
Obviously, it'll have to function better, be higher res photos, and then just a better overall package. But if this type of thing is available on a console, I'm going to want that console.
Yep. For sure. Like, yeah, it all depends on whether or not they execute on the console. Because right now, this is, I think, it further fuels the thing of what I've said last week, where I think that ROG Ally is just going to be used as a testing platform. See how the things run. You're building your entire like layout to fit on it, and then you'll end up pulling that into the console thing because they polished up certain things. They even did it on the actual Series X console itself, which I also mentioned last week, where they've changed the executables when you go to boot up a game, it brings up another screen and stuff like that, which is very similar to the way the PC app functions. So it's just trying to get that cohesive feel of everything will work the same. Because that's the worst thing is that if you were to move from a Series X as an example to that hybrid, and then there's a whole new menu layout and trying to work out, that's the worst. You need to just make it as seamless as possible. That's the whole point of you combining everything.
Well, the Xbox news, it comes in abundance. Xbox is partnering with Meta for the Xbox Meta Quest 3S. Um, so listen, this thing's gonna be $400, and it's pretty much just a Meta Quest 3S as is it has a strap, like it has a nicer strap than the regular Meta Quest 3S. So I guess there's your $100, and it has a controller with it, and it's black and green, and the headset is black and green as well. So it's like there's listen, go buy if you want a MetaQuest 3S. Don't buy this one. Buy the cheaper one. It's a limited time thing. They're not trying to necessarily sell this as a mass market product. Um, it does look good. I think it's a cool looking piece of technology, their Xbox version of the MetaQuest, but it's just a MetaQuest 3S. There's no like additional features or tech or anything on this thing that makes it any more powerful or more technically impressive other than the little strap device that they have the I don't remember what they call it. It's like the elite strap or whatever the fuck. A
No, well,
better
hopefully it doesn't carry the quality of the Elite controllers because they break fairly consistently, guys, and I don't think you want that strap breaking when it's slapped on your bonds. So it was a weird. I don't know how you felt. Like the seeing that announcement was very strange, though, to me. It was like, oh, okay. Especially after we covered that Sony's kind of like, oh, we don't really want to do VR and stuff like that, and then they turn around and go, yeah, we do. We'll
a
dip our finger in there. It's like God, you just can't help yourself, can you?
little late.
But yeah, it's. I think this all but confirms that they have no interest in doing stuff themselves moving forward. They will do the
No.
software side of things, but I think they want to completely deshackle from making their own hardware, or be very, very, very limited in what they contribute to the hardware. because it's so
100.
expensive to make. So,
Yeah. That's a big takeaway for me as well. It's a lot of positioning themselves to be set up as the number one publisher in the world who still technically has hardware without having to make that
mhm.
initial investment. So
Yep.
I will say smart move though in terms of the partnership. The MetaQuest 3 is definitely the best VR headset on the market. Batman Arkham Shadow was exclusive for it last year. Asgard's Wrath 2 was exclusive for it the year before that. Deadpool is going to be exclusive for it this year. So it's got like all of the best games. And to now be able to say, play the best VR games on an Xbox, and this is an Xbox, and that's an Xbox. You can play everything on your Xbox. So, yeah, it's a cool looking headset. I would never buy this. I would never recommend anybody else to buy this. You can get $100 cheaper version with the same exact feature suite, but it is cool looking. And it's not like I don't think they're committing a crime against humanity for launching a fucking limited time expensive product.
No.
I do think they're committing a crime against humanity. Not necessarily a crime against humanity, but this is the negative report of the week regarding Xbox. A lot of layoffs are going to
Mm,
be hitting Xbox next week. This is coming from Jason Schreier over at Bloomberg. Microsoft Corporation will conduct another round of major layoffs in its Xbox division next week as a part of a company-wide reorganization. Managers within Xbox are expecting substantial cuts across the entire group, according to people familiar with the plans who asked not to be identified, discussing non-public information. The company declined to comment. This will be the fourth big layoff at Xbox in the past 18 months, following three major cuts last year and the closure of several subsidiaries. Xbox, which produces video game hardware and software, has been under pressure from Microsoft executives to boost profit margins since purchasing Activision Blizzard for $69 billion dollars in a deal that closed in 2023.
mhm.
Um, Bloomberg News earlier reported that Microsoft plans to cut thousands of jobs next week, largely in sales. So it's looking, the sales division, and there was some reports about like entire wings of their European divisions being
Yeah.
closed down. So I assume there's going to be thousands of jobs lost there, or hundreds of jobs lost there. Hopefully not thousands. You just it's always a fucking bummer. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? It's always a bummer. It's a lot of layoffs, cutting thousands and thousands of jobs, and it does kind of make you think like, oh shit, man. Activision, was it worth it? I mean, I guess sure, financially they're making tons and tons of money, and that's kind of the bummer as well, where they'll have their financial earnings call and be like, record-breaking profits, record-breaking player count, record-breaking monthly active users, and it's like, well, shit, that's great and all, but thousands of jobs are being cut with your record-breaking profits. Um,
Yeah, but
yeah,
unfortunately, they don't care about that. As investors only care about the numbers, they don't care about the people that make them numbers. Um, you, it's shitty to hear this constantly happen. Um, but it was inevitable that it was going to happen. You buy Activision and you put it in. There's going to be tons of, as we said before, that them first waves of layoffs is usually the things that you don't need anymore. There's overlapping of departments of say two people have the same job, you will cut the one that isn't as qualified to do it. You have a better job person to do the job, so that'll be the thing. The now it feels like you've probably there's no way there's any of that going on now. This is just you're squeezing out people here and there so that when you do that next report, you can still turn around and go, and it's another record breaking, and it's another. Like, that is what this is now. We're in that phase
yeah,
of trying to just keep that up as a headline for them because they're a, publicly traded company. People, investors and stuff like that, that's all they care about. They don't care about people's lives and stuff like that. They care about that they've thrown money in to cover the Activision thing, and they want that money back as soon as possible. They want that value, and you know, it's just how it is. It's unfortunate. Um, I the European sales thing that does make sense. They haven't had a very strong, other than the UK during the 360. They struggled outside of Europe big time. They didn't make anywhere near a splash in any other country, and obviously since the 360 shipped and they went and did the Xbox One, it struggled even harder, and it's ended up impacting in the UK where it's not a particular popular console here either. Um, so I think it will just be, like they said, a lot of sales things. But I think some teams are also, like development teams, are probably going to be looked at because you see this power struggle dynamic in Xbox at the moment, where you have Phil who seems to still think Game Pass is the answer. You have his whole mentality of why he was compiling all of these studios, because that was him going to be, all right, we'll have these exclusives on Game Pass and we can rival PlayStation that way. And that clearly didn't work in the way that they wanted it to work. That Activision Blizzard deal has changed everything. It's about just money. Money, 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 money. That is all that matters. Um, so I worry for teams like, because what I wanted to point out was Compulsion is one, um, and Double Fine. These two I'm worried about because they don't fit within that kind of mentality set for what they're trying to push. If you're trying to push profits and make as much money as possible, Double Fine doesn't fit that mold. They're a very niche studio with, especially with their upcoming title. That's not that Lighthouse thing. That's not gonna move anything in the terms of sales. And then obviously South of Midnight was, it didn't seem to do all that well, and it took them quite a while to put that title out. And I'm kind of worried that we're gonna see these two studios get cold heavily during these layoffs. Is my worry. I don't know how you feel about it.
Well, I'm worried about a lot of the European studios, Playground and Ninja Theory and Rare, id, Machine Games. Like
I think
I
Turn
don't know
10
exactly.
is the one to worry about the most of the European studios. The other ones are kind of, they may get, like, they will probably have staff cuts, but I don't think, like, you wouldn't cut Rare right now with how well Sea of Thieves is doing. I don't think you would shake the boat with Playground, considering they're meant to be putting out Fable next year and a Forza game, right?
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna get like I'm not saying these studios are gonna get closed down.
No, not
I'm
closed
just
down,
saying in
but
terms
that's,
of
you
job
wouldn't. I
losses.
don't think that you would rock the boat with Playground if they're, especially Playground themselves with two titles releasing next year. I don't think you would want to disrupt their productivity. But stuff like where Compulsion, they've put their game out. You saw it with Hi-Fi Rush. Hi-Fi Rush did much better than South of Midnight. And if you're
Oh
closing
yeah.
Hi-Fi Rush is studio with Tango, that's why I'm very, very much worried about Compulsion, because they just don't fit within that mentality that they're pushing for. We want to make as much money as possible. That's my big worry.
Yeah. Hey, you look at Compulsion and you look at Double Fine and you're like, they probably need like better. I don't know. I mean, I think South of Midnight probably, if it had better combat, if it some of there's some things about South of Midnight in terms of like the storytelling, the music, where it's fucking awesome, man. Best in class in the music, and it's a real. I really really like that game a lot, and I think that that studio could go on to make like a truly great standout big hit. Um, Double Fine, with Psychonauts 2. Excellent. Had some mainstream appeal to it. Like, I think they need some sort of push directionally to be like, okay, well, let's not make a game about a lighthouse. Let's make a game about a fucking, a third person action adventure platformer, but you're playing, it's kind of similar to Psychonauts, but it's not Psychonauts. Like, you know what I mean? I just think that, and I know you don't want to force your hand too much, but at the same time, like, if it's for the safety and health of the studio to continue to exist. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
at some point you do have to make those business decisions of being like, nobody wants to play as a fucking lighthouse.
Well, you look over it because the when I was thinking through it and seeing them articles, it's like there's certain studios that I think they think they're like Tim Schafer with Double Fine. It's like, oh well, they'd never shut me down. I have like I'm a well-known name in the industry and stuff. And it's like, I think you should probably be looking over what In Exile did and kind of be like, okay, well, we need to put a lot more effort in. Like, it's not saying that they don't put effort in. It's that type of thing where you need to take that next step up. If In Exile's next game was going to be some small niche CRPG, they would be cut immediately with this
Th-
new DNA of Xbox. They wouldn't get that opportunity because you saw with Redfall. Redfall came out and they shut them. Hi-Fi came out and they shut them. Like they want any excuse. Microsoft. It's not Xbox. This is completely different. This isn't Xbox. It's Microsoft breathing down the neck. Any fumble that they make is the excuse to shutter it so that they can then boast about profit.
But see, that's the bummer is that I think when Double Fine was acquired, Ninja Theory was acquired, Obsidian was acquired, they were under the idea. And of course,
Yeah.
business with big corporations is going to
Mm-hmm.
have like negative ripple effects that you can't foresee. But like they were under the assumption that they were going to,
Have creative
be able
freedom, right?
to yeah, be
Yeah.
able to have that creative freedom because there wasn't a $70 billion acquisition where they're looking to cut costs at every fucking corner. And they were under the idea of like, let's make Game
Yeah.
Pass great. Let's make this thing into the Netflix of video games. And to do that, sure, a game with playing as a lighthouse, that's a weird fucking idea that would be great for a subscription service. A
Mm-hmm.
game where you're playing as a, uh, um,
Well,
what
but
is the,
hi-fi with the rhythm. That's a niche game. That these
yeah,
titles where they're creative games. It's not
yeah,
trend setters. They're creative games, and I completely agree with you that you look with Tim Schafer and he was sold on that idea because that's what they sold him. The problem
yeah,
is that when you get into bed with businesses like this, you also need to be able to maneuver when shit hits the fan. And that's why I was
yeah.
giving the example of an Exile. An Exile could have just been like, no, we're stubborn. We're just going to make niche CRPGs. They had to take that next step up. Um, and I think that's going to be the worry of those that don't do that will be the next ones to fall.
And you look at something like Double Fine, or not Double Fine, the Spyro developers. Why am I blanking on the name? Toys for Bob. You
Mm.
look at them and they got the fuck out of there.
Yeah,
And I wonder if they saw the writing on the wall where it's like, we are not working under these sort of conditions. You can fund our game and we'll make
yeah.
it, but we're completely independent outside of that.
No, because
Um,
what are they going to make platformers for Xbox? You think that's going to keep them afloat? You think Spyro is going to keep? They wouldn't. That that would have sunk them.
it's the thing though, Loon, where you look at Satya Nadella and listen, I'm not trying to pocket watch, count people's money. I know that that's kind of what the internet always does whenever something like this happens. And but it is so fucking blatant where this dude's making $70 million a year, and it's like if you cut 10 million of that, you keep 100 jobs. You know what I mean? It's just, and sure, in the grand scheme of things, 100 jobs when you're losing thousands, it's like, but still, it's 100 people who have a job who didn't. And then you see like Iwata and Miyamoto
That's what I was about
during the
to.
Wii
Yeah,
U.
I was literally about
Yeah.
to when I had the chance to interject in. As much as shit we throw at Nintendo, they took the pay cut,
Yes.
and they were like, "No, we don't want to lose all these people because of stuff that we at the top made the decision to fuck up." Basically,
Yeah.
like we led with that. It blew up in our face. It's not their problem. They're just following orders. We'll take the brunt of it. That absolutely commendable. Hats off to them for that. Whereas
I
they're not doing that at Xbox because they're also not like Nadella isn't on the shop floor kind of. It's just a businessman in a suit basically. It's not like they're down and they've come up with the company and stuff. Like a lot of people who had them experience with it, they've left. They've gone. They've gone to other places and stuff like that. You see big names from Xbox that left. Even something as simple as they used to have Major Nelson basically be like a community manager. I don't know if you knew who he was. He
yeah, yeah,
always had
yeah.
like a weekly podcast thing, and even he went in the end. And that was to me that was the end of like a big era because he was so human interacting with people and trying to listen and he was about games and stuff like that. Whereas Xbox seems to have lost a lot of that. Whereas they kind of had that image for a while. They were pushing it, with P3, right? Phil, and he'd be like, "Yeah, I'm in Fallout 76 right now," and it just feels like I don't know, man. We've lost that touch big time.
It, and it's the thing where, once again, I hate doing the pocket watching because when you look at someone like Satya Nadella, who is responsible for Microsoft at large, not just Xbox, like, so
Hmm.
Microsoft at large is making crazy fucking money, like ridiculous money. And so when he gets $70 million and the company is profiting in the fucking billions, hundreds of billions of dollars a year or whatever, it's like, okay, I guess where else is the money going to go? But I don't know. Whenever you see, where else is the money going to go? To the fucking thousands of people you're cutting off is where the money. But I don't live like that. I don't. Not to go on a full anti-capitalist rant because I'm not some anti-capitalist dude. I do think that there are things I just fucking hate about capitalism. There are things I just fucking hate. I don't think communism's the answer. I don't think socialism's the answer. I'm not saying anything like that, but the lack of humanity where as a leader, you have to fucking lead.
Yep.
You have to lead by example. You have to be it just where is the accountability, man? Why does it always fall on the people following orders? It's crazy. Um,
Yep.
but anywho, it's uh it's a bummer, man. Shout out to these people. I hope I the thing that I get so sad about is like there's going to be so many creative people who have great ideas who are discouraged to ever seek
Yeah.
out creating those ideas because they know it's not a stable workforce.
Exactly. And it's the big, big, big slap in the face because just to tie back to it one last time before we move on, a lot of these studios were sold on the idea that you had creative freedom. And now you're punishing them for pursuing that. That's BS.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally, man. I will say though, and I'm not fucking defending big corporation doing shitty shit. I will say though, dude, you have to make games for people. Like you have to your idea has to be something that has some level of marketability to where you can get people in the door to buy your product. Like you know that it is a business. You do have to make things that sell to people.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I not at all dismissing at the top is where the cut should fucking start first. Without a doubt, that's true. Um, without a doubt. So I hope these people, whoever gets hit, we'll be talking about it next week, and then hopefully some miracle can hit, and it's like, no, it didn't actually happen. These reports are wrong. But if Jason Schreier's reporting on it, it's probably 100% going to happen.
Unfortunately.
Chronos, the new dawn, got a combat deep dive trailer, and this is one of my more anticipated games of the year. Still no release date, which I find a little bit odd, but we're running out of months for this thing to launch inside of. I assume it might get delayed to 2026, which is totally fine to me. But um, oh, I didn't think about that. Get delayed to 2026, and you're competing early 2026 with Resident Evil. Let's let's
I was going to
probably
say,
not
how
do that,
often does
Chronos.
Bloober delay their games? Because they're not a developer I follow.
Yeah, I mean, I don't follow them too closely either. I mean, the Medium, I think, did get a delay. I believe Blair Witch got a delay as well, but I'm thinking way back and pulling
Yeah.
from the recesses of my mind there. I don't know.
Because that would be a, to I'm sorry to put it, it would be very stupid of them to go toe to toe with Resident Evil
Oh
in
yeah.
a very short period of time, and then because if they pushed it back even further than that, then you're going with like the GTA release window.
GTA.
It's like, yeah, this is not kind for you. It
You hate to say
looks,
it, but crunch might not be a bad idea to get this out in 2025.
yeah, throw people bonuses, man. You did so well
Yeah.
with Silent Hill. You have money to throw around.
Yeah.
Leverage that. Make it worth people's while
Yeah.
if you're gonna do it.
So they said they're trying to open the combat up a bit more than you'd expect from the typical survival horror game in this little deep dive where the developers were discussing the gameplay and the systems and all that, they were saying like each combat scenario you're presented with is going to give you different options on how to tackle it. So they said like you can go in and take enemies on hand to hand. Like you can straight up melee fight fucking enemies in this game if you're feeling
Like you,
frisky.
where you like to punch things.
I love
Oh, oh,
punching
oh.
shit in games. I was playing Death Stranding 2 and I jumped off a fucking cliff. And I saw a clip floating around on Twitter of a guy doing it. And so I jumped off a cliff. You can punch in midair. It looks so stupid, but you could jump and punch in midair. It's so fucking fun. Um, and so yeah, I didn't know this game had melee combat at all.
Mm,
That's something that definitely does separate it. It didn't show much of it, so we'll see how polished it is, how fun it is to engage with those systems. But yeah, they showed off the resource management, the upgrade skill tree, and then you can go in and then upgrade your weapons firepower, stability, reload speed, all that shit you'd expect. But you can also upgrade your suit, like similar to Dead Space.
mm,
So yeah, they showed off enemy variety and then showcased that certain enemies would kind of be more sneaky and try to attack you from the shadows, whereas other enemies kind of lure you in and they try to set you up with a trap. That they make themselves obvious and it's like, hey, come to me, not knowing there's a trap right there that they're laying or some shit. Yeah, it's there's not a lot. They talk more than they show here, which is fine,
mm.
but there's not a lot of actual combat deep diving to be done here. As Loon will have the trailer rolling for y'all, y'all be able to see pretty much everything that's in there. It's not a lot, but it does still look good.
Yeah, it's especially when they're talking about releasing it this year. It looks like they probably should have shown a little bit more, which is why it kind of gives you that feeling that it probably will get pushed or it'll be a very, very late release
Yeah.
in the year. Uh, like I'm talking like December, like pushing it to like
Hmm.
that kind of time frame. I I I think they should aim for a release this year.
Maybe
Uh,
Gamescom. They could maybe announce the release date at Gamescom. That's in August, so yeah, maybe.
because I think it would be catastrophic for them to pop this off next year. It's so competitive next year.
Yeah. So the thing I liked the most about this, or I don't know if liked is the right word. This is the most interesting detail I found from this deep dive. They were answering like these rapid fire questions. And the question was, do all travelers have the same mission? And they answered yes and no. All travelers will have to jump to the past to extract some targets, but each traveler will have a different list of targets. And I don't know how I feel. I like the concept of that. I like the idea that everyone who plays the game can have a slightly varied experience. But I also don't like the idea of potentially abandoning the like handcrafted linearity
Mm,
of a like narrative driven structure. So I don't like I'm hoping there's still a solid story here to be told, with real story beats that we all see no matter who's playing the game and they actually all matter. Because I think if you have 40 different things that people can see and it can affect the story drastically, which of those are and listen, I'm open to that. I think that could be really fucking cool. I love branching decisions and stuff like that. I'm just hoping it's not like procedurally slop,
yep.
just thrown in there where it doesn't have a real narrative hook to it.
Mm, yeah. Definitely a big worry if they do that because you've seen to bring up compulsion again. Sorry, with what was it? We Happy Few.
We happy few.
With
Yeah,
that kind of thing, they weren't able to execute something where it flowed particularly well when you heavily lean on procedural generation. It becomes very messy when you're trying to get to point A to point B. Like you can have these narrative moments set in stone, but the things in between that are just like, oh, that doesn't feel good. So hopefully
totally.
that's not the case. Yeah.
So I talk a little Rematch real quick. Rematch just came out and it has seen over 3 million players. Obviously, it's on Game Pass, and that's another thing. Chronos will be on Game Pass as well.
Hmm.
So, Loon, I fucked up, man. I have our video. I uploaded it to Game and Ramble. Are you on our YouTube channel right now?
I can have a look.
Because if you're on our YouTube channel, you can go to the videos and you'll see it. It's privated,
Okay.
but I think you'll still be able to access it. So you can run our footage where it's you and I. We were fucking some people up in some rematch. Um, but if you don't, if you're not able to
Yeah,
run it,
44 minutes of it, baby.
yeah, we were fucking
We
people up, man.
we spent a very long time playing this.
Dude. Yeah. So just real quick before we get into our thoughts on it, um, keep in mind it's reached 3 million players. That doesn't mean 3 million copies sold. I would assume probably somewhere close to a million already, though. It had 92,000 concurrent players on Steam at its peak, which, once again, isn't the end all be all, but it is a multiplayer game. It's very important. That is a very, very important metric for multiplayer games. It is on Game Pass as well. So, like,
Mm.
that's, millions of people in there playing it. So, and they just got a Puma deal. Their Puma is you can wear licensed Puma gear, have the Puma fucking logo on your chest and on your shoes and shit in Rematch. So they're making some cash over there at Slow Clap, and they deserve it because holy shit, Loon and I have been playing this and it is fucking fantastic.
Yeah, we lost a night to it, and then we also
Yeah.
hooked up with the Discord with Panda the following night
Yep.
and played even more of it. It's so addictive. It's so unbelievably addictive.
It is, dude. It's so good. And it's I guess we'll kind of just give our quick impressions of it here. We'll talk more about it in the ranking, I assume, but it's I think the thing that makes it so addictive is that it's so quick and such low stakes. You know what I mean? It's you hop in and you're only there for a three or for a 6 minute match.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And you're not necessarily playing for any reason. Like there's not some ultimate goal that you're trying to hit. You're just trying to win the game. And if you lose the game, it's like, well, cool. I'll hop into another game and I'll have 6 minutes to hopefully win that one. You don't feel that, of course, if you're the goalie and someone scores on you with 15 seconds left to go, it breaks your heart. You are so defeated. But it's other than situations like that, it's not such a high stakes thing. It's very intense. Don't get me, especially 3v3. 3v3 is so fucking intense and chaotic. And 5-on-5 is a little bit more structured, a little bit more like actual soccer. And, you kind of play your role. I typically in 5v5, I would kind of push back a little bit and help the goalie out because everybody would be clogging the other goal on offense. It's like nothing's going to get done there. And if someone has a fast break, the goalie's going to need a little bit of help. And all these motherfuckers on the other end are going to have their stamina bar completely depleted as they're just trying to get in position to score. And so like you have to play with a little bit more strategy. So it's kind of the thing. If you want to play more strategic, kind of real soccer style, 5v5 is your go-to. And if you want to play a chaotic, just arcadey sport, 3v3 is your go-to.
Yeah, I think they captured, like you said, because there's no progression in like an RPG like way. That your character doesn't get better. It's your own manual skill gets better. You play more, you get
Yeah.
more adjusted to the control scheme. It's just exactly like what made Rocket League the success that it is, and I think this is going to be the thing to rival. This isn't going to rival FIFA. I don't think it's going to take any of them fans out because they prefer what FIFA offers. This is much more in the realm of Rocket League, and yeah, I've been playing it every night since you sent me that message. It's it's probably going to replace Rocket League for me for now. The only
Oh
unfortunate thing,
shit.
which I have run into, is you was talking about the 100 goal thing. It's capped out at 52% on Xbox. I can't
No.
progress in that
Oh,
achievement. I'm at like 75 goals and it's not moved, and I'm like, oh man. So
That's yeah. The achievements and trophies are both broke because
yeah,
I'm at level 20 for my player, and I never got my level 10 trophy on PlayStation.
yeah, it's so unfortunate. There's that which I would point out as a negative, and then it's bizarre to me that they didn't just push the release back like a month or two and launch it with crossplay because there's no crossplay at the moment, which is
Yeah,
also kind of a negative. But other than that,
yeah.
stellar game.
It's so fun, man. And I think that what I like most about it, and I think that it's kind of making me understand or appreciate soccer more than I ever have. I never really, it wasn't that I disliked soccer. I just didn't know anything about it. I never cared about it one way or the other. But what this is doing is making me understand that soccer is such a team-centric sport. Where,
Hmm.
like in basketball, for instance, if you are like, if you and I are playing a pickup game, and say it's me, you, and one other person, we're playing 3v3 basketball. If you are like elite at basketball, you can beat those other three players by yourself. Me and the other player could just stand off in the corner and you could beat those other three players by yourself. In soccer, or at least in this game, you can't really do that. If you're a bad teammate, your team is typically going to lose.
Hmm.
And if you're a good teammate, and if you're playing with at least one other good teammate, you're typically going to win. Um, and it's because, especially in 3v3, I should say. And I think it's because there is this like urge to score the ball in rematch. Like people really, really, really want to score, so much so that they'll abandon the goalpost as they're a goalie, so much so that they'll get in the way of the other teammates so that they can get the shot. And that ends up in the goalie easily being able to read it and swat the ball. And so there's like a lot of these little intricate kind of things that if you are just a good teammate, you actually end up being rewarded with wins. You know what I mean? Like if you play the game, and I don't know how to play soccer, you know,
Hmm.
it's just kind of like common sense shit to me. Spread the field. Whenever I'm goalie, like I might go out to kind of lure someone to me, but
Hmm.
I'm never going past half court or half field before just immediately kicking the ball to a teammate so that they can have a now a 2-on-1 advantage or whatever.
Yep. No, it's exactly it's fully achieved its job of making the game so easy to pick up with the control scheme being so simple and
Yeah.
the gameplay being so sticky and enjoyable to the point where you had no interest in football, and this has somehow captured you in the way that it has, which shows that the product is absolutely stellar. So
Totally. Yeah. And it's a game that like you are going to make mistakes nonstop,
yeah.
especially for someone like me who doesn't know soccer, and even like someone like you who you do know this shit. But it's even I'm 30 hours into the game. I'm still making mistakes every single game. But and I can't, you know, speak to how you feel about playing with me or how other people feel about playing with me, but
God, it
like
was awful. No, it was a blast. The thing is, what I want to when we played together as a two, and then when we played together as a free team, that's where this game truly shines. Like you can get fun, of course, playing solo, but the game really begins to like take that next level when you're able to communicate. This game is so communication dependent because it's about running through channels and lanes and stuff like that. And when you're all you know your role, the game just flows so well.
yeah, you know, and it's the thing too where if you like I said, you're going to fuck up a lot in this game. But I don't think that your teammates ever, unless you are actually harming the team, like unless you were actively fucking up and it's obvious that you're not looking out and not trying to win the game and not trying to help your team get involved. Like it doesn't feel, I don't know. I guess the community just seems to be fairly positive with this.
Mm.
Like if, I mean, I know that you're going to get some shit, but a lot of the
Oh,
time, like I'll get a goal.
I think it's much more American servers. When I was solo queuing in the EU, there was a lot more shenanigans going on
Oh,
of
really?
people throwing drops, and that's I think that's kind of expected. That's just the mentality that a lot of them are FIFA players who kind of have that mentality. They're they're very it's me. They'll spam like pass, pass, pass. They will play no defense at all. So, but it is what it is. We when we were playing, it was 95% just a solid positive experience. There wasn't anything going on that hindered it.
And I should say, like, it's not a game without flaws. You know what I mean? Like there are real flaws with this game.
Mm.
The magnetized ball, how that kind of is just a game of chance at times
Yeah.
where it really does feel like there's certain situations where the ball is right there on your foot, but for whatever reason it doesn't magnetize to it, and the player just takes it and has a wide open fast break fucking goal. Like there's things like that that are so frustrating. You dive for a ball as the goalie, you feel like you're right there, and for whatever reason it doesn't magnetize to your hands. Um,
Mm.
there are things like that that are going to be frustrating. The pass system, I think, could kind of be reworked to some degree, where you're holding X and trying to, like, I think there could be, that's fine, but there are super easy passes that you should probably just be able to press a button and kind of angle the thumbstick without having to line up that arrow so precisely. You know what I mean? Because you can
Yeah.
be right next to a motherfucker and not be able, and just you accidentally fucking move the stick slightly to the right or left and the ball goes flying somewhere else. There's little things like that that can be ironed out for sure.
Yeah, the biggest thing in your opening few matches is understanding that there is the magnetization is could be considered hand holding. I suppose, the game can be very lenient with it, but when you're making the passes, it's much more akin to playing a first person shooter because it's
Yeah.
a crosshair more than anything. Wherever that centralized crosshair is, that's where the ball will go at that height. When you're holding like the shoot button, it will go at that height, which was like a really big learning curve because when you're also sprinting and you get to the wall and stuff, you it's so hard to make back passes because you're looking at the wall. So
Yeah.
I think that's yeah, it's something that if you can find a group of people to play with, I think most people are going to enjoy it. Because I was playing with a
Yeah.
friend who is in a similar boat to you. They don't play football. They had no interest in football. They're also American, and he had a blast. He absolutely loved it.
Yeah. I I can't really see someone picking this up for the first time. And I'm not saying, listen, it's probably right up there for one of my favorite games of the year. I'm not saying that necessarily everybody is going to vibe with it on that level to that degree, but I can't see someone picking this up and being like, yeah, this is dog shit. Like it's a very well made game.
Mm.
Like it's just an objectively well made game. So shout out to Slow Clap and I still do hope they go back to kind of the Sifu
I
style
was,
game at some point, but
I was about to say, let's see these profits get funneled into a Sifu sequel, because I think this is going to make them a lot of money.
oh yeah. Yeah, this will make them so much more money than they ever made with Sifu,
Mm-hmm.
without a doubt. But shit yeah. Shit yeah. It's a very good game. One of my favorite games of the year. Like I said, I've played probably 25, 30 hours of it. It has not been out long, so it's addicting. It's been taking all of my free time. Speaking of a game that can take a lot of a player's free time, Expedition 33. Really not. That's actually such a well-made game in terms of its pacing, in terms of its hour count, all that. Got to give them more credit.
Unless you're playing it like me.
Yeah, very true.
Ooh, pretty colors. Stands there for 20 minutes.
But shout out Square Enix acknowledging the success of Expedition 33.
Yep.
There was a financial earnings call, and I'll get the direct quote here for you. But essentially saying like, yeah, we're aware this thing did really well, and we are aware that the turn-based routes are, yeah, we should probably go back in that direction at some point.
Mm-hmm.
They don't like explicitly say, hey, our next Final Fantasy game is going to be a turn-based, It's not going. They're not locking anything down, but just the fact that they're even acknowledging Expedition 33 at all.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, Square Enix responded to an investor who, one of the shareholders for Square Enix, said that they would like the new Dragon Age or the Dragon Quest that they would like the new Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy games to be turn-based and highlighted Expedition 33 success as an example.
Hmm.
Square Enix responded that they are aware of Expedition 33 and believe that combat that command-based RPGs are the origin of Square Enix. They value the genre of command-based RPGs and plan to continue delivering such games in the future. So, listen, it's not like nothing there is even somewhat indicating that that's a direction that they're going to go for the next mainline Final Fantasy
I
game.
was
But I
about
honestly wouldn't be surprised.
I was about to say he doesn't. They don't reference in response Final Fantasy's name, right? They just say we are looking. There's very vague terms, right? Because
Yeah,
what
yeah,
Square could be doing there is just like, well, if people want a turn-based game, they can go and play Dragon Quest, maybe,
yeah.
and offer something like that, or they'll offer other stuff. They may just be completely locked into Final Fantasy being action-oriented moving forward, and then maybe do spin-offs in Final Fantasy games with turn-based. I hope that's not the case. I would like to see a return to turn-based. Of course, I have a bias there, of course, especially after the showing of Expedition 33. It shows that you don't, because I think what they were envisioning is the Final Fantasy X kind of thing, where it's just you slap, you get slapped, you slap, you get slapped. That is a lot harder to sell to people nowadays. Um, but Expedition 33 was in some parts even Souls esque with timing, parries, dodges. Like there's so many more moving parts, and if they can implement that into a Final Fantasy game and keep that turn based, I think that would. I dare say it would maybe rival some of the stuff that they've done. Maybe not Rebirth. I think that would be way too high of a bar set. But how many did 16 sell? That
Okay, so
was
that
that
yeah,
was a lower
that's
that was a lower bar, right? Than
that's the funny thing is like I listen, I really like Expedition 33. I like it more than Final Fantasy 16, I think. But Final Fantasy 16 sold 3 million copies in way shorter time than it took Claire Expedition. I think Final Fantasy 16 sold 3 million copies either in a day or a week on one platform. It was only available on PS5. It took Expedition 33 fucking it was 33 days, right, to sell
Yep.
3.3 million copies.
Yep.
So it's like the whole
Yeah.
yeah,
But I
it's
think with the
definitely
name behind it, I think that could be the thing of where you draw people in, because you look at stuff like, because Death Stranding's selling, I would assume, pretty well. The sequel, I wouldn't think that that would be selling slow. It's once you have established it, because with Expedition 33, it had no. That was it. That was the first game. So of course, it's a lot harder to convince people to buy into that product because people wait. They wait a week, they wait 2 weeks, and they go, "Oh, okay, people are banging on about this constantly. All right, I'll check it out," kind of thing. Whereas with Final Fantasy, it's a household name. It's been around for decades. So I think if they were to lean into it, and the thing is what they need to. It's not just leaning into making the combat. It's I played 16, the opening hour, and we talked about it in the Discord call, and I'm not negative on it. It's just very glaring when you came from Claire to have a dark, mature story, and then you go to Final Fantasy, and there's parts where they do execute the mature, dark grittiness, but it still has a very campy feel with Final Fantasy. They just there's certain things they don't execute as well on as Expedition did. Um, and it was the same with like Final Fantasy 15, and I think it's that they try to blend too much. They need to just go one direction or the other, go full modern setting or just go pure fantasy. Like they try to strike that balance way too often, I believe, personally. and I think it kind of does make the product a little bit jarring at times. But I think they could do well with a turn based game. I don't think it needs to, because there's a lot of people that were jumping on it and being like, "Oh well, they don't need to make action games anymore." I don't think that we don't need the extreme of these. We don't need all or nothing. There can be a balance struck for both. I think that they could do stuff like if there's rumors of the nine remake or whatever it is. I would assume that that would work well with turn based if they could figure that out, or with the next mainline entry if they want to just build that from the ground up. But I think Final Fantasy moving forward can fit both. It's Square, for
Totally.
Christ's sake. They have enough resources to do both things if if they choose to pursue them.
That's really the main thing that we should discuss because I think that's the one and only issue in this entire equation is their resource management. Like the reason that Sandfall is thrilled with 3.3 million copies in 33 days is because the game didn't cost what it cost to make fucking Final Fantasy 16 or Rebirth or Remake. Like those those games here's here's the reality. Square is going to have a come to Jesus moment at some point, a real look in the mirror and go, Final Fantasy just is not going to be that game that sells Witcher numbers. It's just not going to happen anymore. It's not the 90s. And so I think their thing should be how do we make a Final Fantasy game that's under $100 million that we won't be quote unquote disappointed in. You know what I mean? That won't have some sort of, oh, it didn't quite meet our expectations. Well, then, dude, scale back, have a smaller team, work on a 30-hour Final Fantasy game, and you can do your full turn-based thing at that point because it's going to make $100 million back. I would assume. I would assume fairly easily. So it's just I think they have to manage their products better. There's no evidence, there's no data that would suggest that you should be spending $300 million on a Final Fantasy game in 2025. Like that just seems. Listen, I'm all for it because when I look at the spectacle of Final Fantasy 16, I'm like, holy fucking shit! This is some of the crazy. Like, I want you to spend crazy money because I'm the consumer. Like, but as a business to run a healthy business, that is not a game, a franchise that has that level of bankability anymore.
No, and the thing is so I just want to point out the reason why Claire did obviously again there was people throwing around the 33 number of developers and stuff. There was more of them than that, but they were very very intelligent with who they hired. I don't know if you've seen some of the reports that came out with like the animation team. I think they picked them up from Korea, I believe. And what they did was they were looking around and they were like, okay, so we can't do what we want to do. Because them early builds, they were like, right, we have a vision in mind and we want this animation because when you're doing parries and dodging, it needs to be frame perfect. It needs to be, there can be no flaw in this whatsoever. And they were looking around, looking around, looking around. And a lot of the people that they ended up scooping up were from people who were from like LinkedIn and stuff like that and looking at people's like uh, personal projects. Like they
Mm.
headhunted them off of the internet instead of with Square, you have hundreds and hundreds of people at a studio and stuff like that. That's why it costs them so much because they're already locked in with salaries and stuff. Whereas with uh, Claire's development, a lot of the stuff was like, "Oh, we'll contract you to make this specific thing, and then you're out." And I think that also not enough people are talking about that. That might be the way that stuff like these studios can rival AAA. You need to be very smart with your contracting
Yep.
because you can't hire like I'm sorry to punch down on mind's eye and stuff like that, but you can't hire all these people and have it be a bomb because then you have all these people who are expecting a salary now months after the release of the game and the game's doing terribly and then you do layoffs and therefore you don't get another game and your studio begins to shutter. So I think they as long as you see a bunch of indie developers and people starting off start contracting people, I think that's where they can survive like that. I don't know, could Square do that? Because they have people on you wouldn't have that option, would you, of trying to be smart?
Well,
Like they're already ballooned, they would have to begin layoffs to try and like tackle it
I
in that
don't think
manner.
so. I don't think so. I think what you do is you have smaller teams separate and do smaller projects. Like, why not have a spin-off Final Fantasy game that's not attached to anything mainline, that doesn't have to have a number behind it. It can be like a tactics. You know what I'm saying? Like, it can be something that is just totally like a Stranger of Paradise. Something of that scale, and then you have the Claire clone sort of combat in there where you're parrying, you're dodging, and they really focus on making that. And then you have a slightly bigger team who's working on Final Fantasy 17, and then you have a slightly bigger
I
team who's
mean,
working on Final Fantasy 9 remake.
they already do that though. They've done that for decades. They have like 8 projects going at one time.
I know that, but they're all huge. All these
It,
games are so fucking big.
because I don't want to throw shade at it. It's the thing of like that's why Sandfall when they looked around that you need to headhunt people because you don't what you want to accomplish efficiently you can't do if you have 100 people and none of them can do that job you then as a company they throw more heads at it. What would take 2 people to do something who's extremely talented takes 8 people and then it takes longer and then you start having creative differences and stuff like that. And I think that's what they're running into is you see a lot of AAA studio where there's just power dynamics and stuff. You don't have as strong heads anymore with visionaries, and it's just it's very
Designed by
corporate.
committee.
It's yeah, it's very corporate. It's very because you get punished when it like what we said earlier when you come out with a creative idea and then it gets shut down and stuff like that. So
Listen, I'm definitely not trying to defend Square Enix's management or
no, but I get what you're
their
saying. Though. Absolutely, they
yeah.
need to trim and just be more smart. But they have tried to do that. I think they've just realized the people they have there, they can't do it on them things. Is what it feels like. They either can't hit deadlines or they just don't have the necessary skills to work with so small teams
I
efficiently.
yeah.
At least.
Listen, once again, man, that's I look at Square Enix a lot differently than most people do. I know a lot of people look at them as like Capcom level, Sega level. I look at that, I'm like, what the fuck is going on over there, man? That because and it even goes back further for me. Where I think the one franchise they had that could have got them to where they wanted to go in terms of those Witcher level sales that they're thinking that somehow Final Fantasy is going to hit. The only game that and listen, this game couldn't have even got that, but it was Deus Ex. Deus Ex was the only thing they had in their portfolio that was somewhat on par. People, dude, listen to so I pulled up some data on this. Deus Ex Mankind Divided sold over 12 million copies, and it had horrible marketing.
Hmm.
Like, felt almost intentionally sabotaged by Square with the whole augment your pre-order fiasco and all the unnecessary microtransactions and locking missions behind paywalls. And it was horribly, horribly marketed. Listen to this. So, Final Fantasy VII Remake peaked at 13,803 concurrent players on Steam. Rebirth peaked at 40,564 players on Steam. Final Fantasy 16 peaked at 27,508. You know what game had a higher peak than all of them? Deus Ex Mankind Divided at 52,485. And this was 8 years ago. Steam has grown significantly since then. And listen, totally get it. That was available day one on Steam opposed to Final Fantasy games where they have to wait a year, but it was 8 fucking years ago. And so last little bit of data. Steam's player base has more than doubled in the last 10 years.
Hmm.
Steam had 67 million active users, active monthly users in 2017. They had over 132 million active users by 2021. And there's no official data yet, but some reports suggest that Steam is close to 200 million monthly active users in 2025. In September of this year, Apillion reported that Steam has over 185 million monthly active users. So yes, Deus Ex Mankind Divided was released day one, and the Final Fantasy games weren't released day one on Steam. but it was also released close to a decade earlier, and Steam has tripled since then.
Yeah. And of course, as well, what needs to be kept in mind, as much as they sabotaged it and stuff, that's a lot more a Deus Ex or a Final Fantasy game. Deus Ex is a lot more appealing to a Western audience, which is I know it's harsh to say, but there's more of us. So therefore, as a business, that's what they would be targeting. That's why they pushed the action. They want to keep their Final Fantasy name, but they've morphed it into a much more action-based game than a turn-based because it's more appealing to Western audiences than it is to Japanese and other audiences over there. So yeah, I would fully agree with you that if they would have stuck with it, it probably would have been something that they could have kept chipping away at. But it was just a thing of, if Final Fantasy's ballooning budgets, that would also be ballooning budgets. They just chose to cut that because Final Fantasy is their baby. Deus Ex wasn't their
Totally.
baby; they just purchased it. It's the same
Yep.
thing with like how Microsoft doesn't give a crap about the evil within because it's, yeah, they purchased Tango, but it's not, they didn't sit there and make that from the ground up as their IP. They have no care about it whatsoever. So they were happy to toss it to the side along with many other things. And it's the thing of where I think their publishing has been kind of weak as well. I think if we would have seen like a Sleeping Dogs published midway through the PS4 generation rather than like towards the beginning and the crossover between the 360, I think that would have also helped them out massively because all of them games kind of like petered off. I think that would have done a massive job for them, and we'd probably see sequels coming out of that.
I really hope that Embracer, that someone over there is looking at some of this data and being like, damn, Mankind Divided, that was that was doing fucking crazy numbers on PC for a decade ago. You know what I mean? I don't think anyone over there at Embracer is any wiser than the people over at Square Enix, unfortunately. So I don't know if we'll ever get a damn new Deus Ex game. And of course, like I said last week, I am always going to manipulate data to 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 make the point that I want to make, and the point I
Because
want to make is I want to know.
did they ever put out how much it cost to make Mankind Divided? Was there ever
Mm,
budgets floated around?
I could probably find it.
Because that's the big thing of
Let's
like, I
see.
understand why, because if it cost them tons and tons of money, they didn't help it themselves by the marketing campaign fiasco. But the thing is that those obviously, as well with the sales numbers reaching that, Deus Ex Mankind Divided is a game that is frequently on slash sales as well.
Yeah, 70 million for Mankind
That was
Divided.
quite a lot in what, 2016?
16. Yeah,
That's quite a hefty budget for 2016.
it's up there. Yeah,
So yeah, I
it's
can
up there for
understand.
sure.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, yeah, especially when you got Final Fantasy draining so much money from you as well. It's like there's
Well,
only
yeah,
so much
15
money to be
took how
spread
long
around.
to put out?
Yeah.
They were
And it was right there in that period too.
they were because that was meant to be part of 13 originally, and then it broke off into its own thing. So like, yeah, they're a mess of a company. I
Yeah.
love them, but they are a mess of a company, and they've been doing things well here and there, but they still have a ways to go.
Well, how about
Oh, a
I
mess
don't
of a
even
company. Hello.
I I I don't even know where to begin with this, Loon. So you'll see. Did I put it in there, the cast, the Street Fighter 6 cast? Is that in the playlist for
It is
our
after
YouTube thing?
this other thing. Did you want me to run that first?
Wait, what was the other thing? Did I miss something?
There was a PlayStation
Oh, yeah,
trailer.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yes, 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 yes. Absolutely. Yeah, we got to talk about this first for sure. I don't know how I skipped this. This is such a heartbreaking fucking story. So, Steven Totillo did an interview with Sony about PlayStation Plus, and there was some interesting shit in here. They reiterated that they have no plans on bringing first party content to PlayStation Plus until it's been out for 12 months to 18 months, which that's totally smart. That's
Mm-hmm.
a good move in my opinion. They are targeting 4 to 5 third-party games day and date per year. They're open to more. So you know what? Let's go point by point on this one. They reiterated they have no plans on bringing first-party content to the service until it's been out for 12 to 18 months. How do you feel about that one? We'll kind of hit this bit by bit until we get to the real thing I wanted to talk about.
So from a Sony mindset, that makes 100% sense. They're not in the business of making the reason you're picking up a PlayStation isn't for PlayStation Plus. That's just an additional thing that they're going to be dinging you for money for whatever piques your interest, and they probably expect people to drop subscriptions and pick them back up when something comes in the thing. It's not something that you would aim to have people constantly have. It's just like a bonus, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's my
I,
thing. I don't have a problem with them doing that. I think that's smart.
yeah, I do as well. I think something like Game Pass was it was a great idea at the time when Xbox rolled it out. I think it was the play they had to make, especially like nobody knew. I can look back and anyone can look back and be like doing the Monday morning quarterbacking, but in 2019 or was it 2018, whenever Game Pass was introduced, they nobody thought that that thing was going to struggle the way it's struggling. Those when you're looking at your Netflixes and all that, like it seemed obvious that that was going to be the Netflix of games. And then now, years later, it's kind of proven out that the vast majority of people don't really want to lock into a subscription service like that. Um, they just don't have, and you kind of, I can, once again, here in the now, I can say, yeah, okay, that makes sense because people are spending 70 hours with a big Assassin's Creed or a big, whatever game you want to list out there, Death Stranding. It's like, yeah, they would probably rather buy that and own that opposed to being dinged every single month for $20 and then in 4 months that it takes them to finish the game they've been dinged $80. You could have bought the game for less than that, so it's I don't think I just don't think the average consumer has enough time for these subscription services in gaming to make a lot of sense. um
Yeah, because the difference with a movie is that you're it's the weird perception, isn't it? Because it's not when you actually get down to the numbers, it's not that different of a margin that you're paying Netflix to the Game Pass thing. But you feel like you get a lot more with Netflix, a lot of people, even though for an hour count you don't, technically. If you were in a game, you'd get 70 hours with one thing, whereas with movies, but then you'd think, oh, but I got 7 movies out of that, for instance,
yep.
rather than one game. And I think
Hmm.
that's the thing of like convincing people and why people look at it and be like, why am I getting dinged like 18, whatever, 20 a month? I'm only paying one title. Or they
Yeah,
go to the next month and they're like, I don't care for any of these titles, so I'm being dinged for something I don't care about. So yeah,
totally. Yeah, so yeah, I agree. Smart move on their behalf. Wait 12 to 18 months. And I'll give them credit. Their subscription service is starting to kind of stack up. Like that premium, the retro games and shit, they got a little catalog going now. And they've just built it up over time. And I don't think they're removing any of those premium games. I could be wrong, but they got a nice premium lineup for the retro titles. So that's kind of the reason I jump in. Like I jumped in to play Deus Ex and I'll be sticking there until the end of the summer because Resident Evil 2 is dropping and I am going to absolutely be running through that again. So they said they're targeting 4 to 5 third party games day and date per year. They're open to more. I, I think that they should. I hope they're looking at this as like 4 to 5 big third party games a year and fill every other month with something in the indie space. I wish they would do that because there's so many great indie games out there, and I don't think it's going to cost you a fucking arm and a leg to find some of these really high quality solo developed or small team developed games. Toss them a bag, get them more exposure, get them more money, and also add value to your service. Um, when you see a Lost Records or a Blueprints or games of that ilk, it's like, sure, Outriders. It's like, yeah, keep the bigger stuff to, you don't have to do a ton of those, but a Balatro, like, and they did do Balatro, but get it day one. Have someone out there for their entire job being like going through the independent market and finding what's going to be hot and having that on your service day and date.
Mm, yeah, fully agree. They kind of had that pretty well in the PS4 gen and stuff. I remember they partnered really early with, I think they're called Scar Studios, I think. The two-person developer of Salt and Sanctuary. And they swooped
Yeah.
in real damn early and kept that locked down as an exclusive for a very long time on in the console space. And I think it still is the way with the sequel. Salt and Sacrifice hasn't come out on Xbox yet, so they're very very smart with that. If they could apply that to their subscription model thing, that would probably be good. But this it's the thing as well of they work completely differently than Microsoft. Microsoft, I know people like to throw this stuff, but people don't. They're not as likely to buy games on Xbox because they expect them to come into Game Pass because that's what you've cultivated year after year, placing that seed in them. Whereas with PlayStation, they're probably not as bothered with putting stuff into that because their consumer base still purchases games in troves in comparison.
So let's get to the real red flag of the interview. All of that we just talked about, fine and dandy, all good, right?
Okay, let's get it.
Everybody's been waiting. We're yearning for those PS3 downloadable games. We want to be able to download Resistance and Infamous and all of those classic titles that are locked onto the PS3 or playable through streaming on PlayStation Plus.
Mm-hmm.
They said adding PS3 games is tougher. Um, he said through streaming, we'll still continue to look at those. We haven't ruled them out. The opportunities are there, but there are a lot of PS3 games already streaming. So nowhere in this talking about the PS3 situation for upcoming games on PlayStation Plus is downloadable content mentioned at all. Um, and then him kind of reiterating it'll be available through streaming. There's other ones that we're looking at. We haven't ruled it out, but it's tougher. Adding PS3 games is tougher. Just nowhere in there, like, it doesn't seem that they have any sort of intention whatsoever to add native downloadable PS3 games. And I think at this point, if it is that much of a hurdle to get over, because I thought that they were going to have some emulation partner come on and figure that problem out for them. If it see, I would assume it's seeming to be that big of a hurdle where it's just never going to happen. At this point, you need to find a Night Dive or you need to find a Virtuous Studios and you need to, fund the studio or found a new studio and create it from the ground up and have another Night Dive, have another Virtuous, what Bluepoint was supposed to be. Get that off the ground and have them. You have such a long running library. Infamous 1 and 2. Package that together in a collection, sell it for $60. Resistance trilogy for 70. Um, do a Japan Studios bundle pack, Tokyo Jungle, Fat Princess, Puppeteer, Folklore, bundle all that together for 100. Um, like it's crazy the amount of PlayStation 3 games that are just stranded on that console. It's in fucking sane.
Yeah, the thing that baffles me though is that people have already figured out like it's not I want to get this out the way. It's not perfect. You will still run into issues, but people have emulated PlayStation 3 games on PC. So it can be done like they this is the thing like they say these things and they like wrap up these words and then a lot of console players are just like, well, it's impossible, it can't be done. Well, the way you shouldn't expect this and like it's left in the PS3. It's just like it can be done. They're just choosing not to do it. And it's the kind of thing where it's a really big head scratcher because I think more than any, wouldn't there be leniency even if it wasn't because Xbox 360 had backwards compatible games with the Xbox, the original Xbox game. They had that backwards compatibility program back then, and there were a ton of titles. I think I've mentioned this title before with Lord of the Rings Third Age, and you could play it from start to finish. You could beat the game, but it had things in it that were glaringly wrong with it. But it was more important that the game was actually accessible, and you just tolerated that. Would you think that PlayStation players just wouldn't tolerate? Like, it's very strange. Like, even if there were minor bugs, wouldn't you just want to
Yeah,
just be like, okay, well, I just accept that because emulation is difficult, but at least it's here and it's working, and I can access these games, and they're not off in the ether somewhere, never to be touched
you,
again.
I honestly like, yeah, I'd be fine with that. I really would kind of prefer them just to make complete versions of them, just port them and sell them and get some extra fucking money out of it and turn it into a thing where you actually can play like a really polished, great because that's the thing. These a lot of these games are classics, dude. And to not have Infamous 2, which I think is like one of the best games of that generation, available in like a solid functional way to play it, that fucking sucks, dude. Um, and I think they could make a lot of money remastering these games. You know, these are the games that people actually want remastered, not The Last of Us and Horizon. Like people really would pay for this shit. And I mean, I guess it seems like people are paying for that
I
other
would,
shit
I
as
was,
well,
I was about to
unfortunately.
say that goes into fuel your point even more so, though, that they're willing to buy The Last of Us and Horizon. So therefore, these games that haven't had that treatment once and have been stuck in a console that's many years old now. People haven't interacted with them titles at all. I'm sure they would be yearning to jump into them. And I don't. It's just very strange. I don't know why they don't do either of them. Like, have an emulation team come in and maybe have it be a little bit rocky, but you can always. It's the age of the internet. You can push patches out, even if it launches very rocky in the beginning. Or like you said, bring in some studios, either fund them yourself, contract them, virtuous style, or build them yourself to get these titles. But it's just very bizarre because, like you said, again, leading back to it with Blue Point, that was their whole job. That's why you acquired them, and then you decided to make them make a live service game. In what
Holy
world does that
shit.
make any remote sense? Oh, they're masters of. Oh, they did Shadow of the Colossus. They did, Demon Souls remake. Yeah, that live service, baby. And it's that thing of where they're falling prey to, like you said, they don't want to put their creative things out. They have to just do the business mindset. They probably push for that live service thing because they don't want their jobs being cut.
Yeah.
And it's sad.
I'm just sitting here thinking, like there's Heavenly Sword, all those Ratchet and Clank PS3 games, the kills, like it's so much locked down over there, man. So much. You could, if you were to create this company and that was their sole dedication, their sole job was to remaster, even just port, slightly up res, whatever, like very light ports. You you're talking about a decade of employment for these people. You're talking about a decade of steady releases. If you put, I don't know, you could genuinely probably do 3 to 4 remasters or ports a year and run this for an entire decade before you and I'm saying before you even run out of first party stuff.
Hmm.
Not to get into to if you want to have them go out and do third party ports and remasters and shit. Like it's yeah, that's so unfortunate. So unfortunate.
Yep.
But I'll tell you what's not unfortunate is the number one comedy movie of 2026 or 2027 or 2028 or whenever the hell this releases. I cannot wait to see the new Street Fighter movie starring, I shouldn't say starring, but 50 Cent is playing a leading role. I don't know about leading role. I want it to be a starring role, a leading role. I don't think it's going to be that, but he's playing Barlog in the new Street Fighter movie. So I put together a list. I don't know anything about Street Fighter at all. I don't know anything about most of these actors at all. But I put together a list. So Loon, if you'll pause that video at the
Oh,
first,
yeah, I already had it running. I didn't know what it
oh
was, and now I've kind of pieced it together. This is your dream team, I'm assuming.
no, this is who is currently
Oh, this is
casted.
who's actually. Oh my days.
This
Okay.
is all real,
Oh,
and that's why I'm saying
okay.
rather I don't
I
know if
didn't
they
see any
know.
of this. I didn't see any of this. Okay.
I'm
Yep.
not sure. I'm not sure if Capcom is aware that this is going to be a comedy movie,
Oh,
whether they
Jesus
want it to be or not.
Christ.
But this is about to be a classic comedy film, and I cannot fucking wait to watch this. So I put together a little, 40-second long thing. And Loon, if you'll get to the first one here,
Yep, good old
we
Jason.
have we have Jason Momoa, who is playing fucking what's the name of this fucker? Hold on one
I'm gonna
second.
say,
Let
oh, I
me
have to fold for this. I have never played a Street Fighter game in my life.
I got it right here. Jason Momoa is Blanca. Jason Momoa is playing Blanca.
Okay.
Um, and so I'm assuming they're gonna throw Jason Momoa in some green paint, orange up his hair a little bit. And so the reason I wanted to put this together is because I don't think you're not the biggest film guy. You're not the biggest Street Fighter guy. I'm not the biggest film guy. I'm not the biggest Street Fighter guy. I don't know almost any of these actors. I don't know any of the Street Fighter characters well at all. So I think this is just going to be a funny exercise in us looking at photos of these of these actors and the characters that we're playing, and we're going to judge them solely based on the very fucking limited information that we have. What do you think? Jason Momoa as Blanca, 1 out of 10. What do you think the casting choice is?
If this was a few years ago when he was in Game of Thrones, and he was like a very serious actor, and I think he did Aquaman as well. He's kind of gone a bit goofy as of late. I think it
Mm,
fits more than people imagine. It's the thing though of like overexposure. When you saw The Rock get handed role after role after role, and the same with Kevin Hart, because he just come out the Minecraft movie, right? Jason Momoa.
yeah. Mm,
I I'll say, and this is, forgive me for this because obviously I've never played any Street Fighter games. I don't know any of the personalities of these characters,
yeah,
so
that's
it
the
is.
funny part.
I'm gonna say six.
Okay,
I think
okay,
he
I
could
guess.
probably do a commendable job, but I don't know if he could pull off green skin. He's
All right.
not Batista.
Yeah. I bet this is how Hollywood worked in the like late 90s, early 2000s. It was all appearance based, just total vanity. There were no room for any acting
He can't
chops
act for
being
shit, but get him in, he looks like.
that's what we're doing right now. So we have Noah Centineo as Ken
Oh,
in
you
the
not
next
rating him?
slide here. Well, we'll throw, yeah, I'd say six as well.
Okay.
So 5, 6
Gonna
as
say
well, somewhere
leaving
in
this
there.
all on my shoulders
No,
to
yeah,
take the hate of the Street Fighter community that oh so loves
no,
our
that.
videos.
um, so we have Noah Centineo, or once again, I apologize, as Ken, and I went through when I was trying to package these together. I was trying to find something that looked a little bit more like this guy, that looked a little bit more like the Street Fighter character Ken. I couldn't really find
Oh my
anything where this
god,
Noah.
no! It's so obvious. If we're going for Owen Wilson, baby, let's get him in.
That's what I'm
Get
saying.
him bulked
Yeah.
up. Let's go.
I mean, this guy looks nothing at all like Ken from Street Fighter. So I'm sitting here trying to, I guess, I don't know, somewhat of the bushy eyebrows I could maybe see in there. You can dye the hair. I don't even think you necessarily have to dye the hair. I don't know if that's like a big feature that people really care about is Ken's blonde hair. It could be. I have no fucking idea whatsoever. But yeah, I'd throw this one at like a 4, man. I don't really see this at all.
No, I don't. I'll take Owen Wilson over him. I'll go with 3. Sorry, sir. I don't even know who he is.
Yeah, you got to go like prime Triple H for
Who
that
the
guy.
fuck is this guy?
So this next one we have Orville Peck as Vega. And I'm assuming they picked the only actor that wears a mask to walk around in day-to-day life because Vega also wears a mask. So they're like, "Yep, that's the guy. That is our guy right now."
I no. um, no, I don't see that. And
I,
again, I have no idea how his acting career is. I don't know if this guy's the greatest man who's ever walked the earth. I don't see that.
it feels like for this to work, you can only have like professional wrestlers as the cast. You have to have big, jacked up, fucking crazy looking motherfuckers, athletes, professional wrestlers. Like all of these guys just look a little bit. See, here we go. For the next one, we have Roman Reigns as Akuma. So this is
Yeah,
perfect.
that could fit. He
You,
needs a
you throw
wig.
a red beard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dye his hair, throw a red beard on him. Like that's perfect casting. You got to have people that look like this. Once again, we're back in the 90s. We're doing our Hollywood casting. We don't give a shit about your acting chops. You need people that look like Roman Reigns to play these characters.
Hmm.
Even though Roman Reigns is notorious in the WWE for overacting, he's
Oh,
he's
he's
not
perfect. There we
necessarily the
go.
greatest.
Get him in. Perfect for a camp, silly comedy like Street Fighter. I'll go 8 out of 10 for him. I think he fits. He
Yeah,
fits. Who's this dude?
I'll drop it to a 7 out of 10 because I know his acting performance at times isn't the greatest, but
Ah,
definitely visual performance is rock solid.
I believe in Roman.
We have Andrew Koji as Ryu here. And once again, like, listen, this guy, he's got a great physique, obviously.
Hmm.
And I'm sure he can bulk up and they can do the Hollywood magic and make him look bigger. But when you look at the comparison, it's just like, holy shit, Ryu is a big fella, man.
Trying to think of who would, because that's what they kind of struggled with in the Yakuza TV show, right? When they were looking for actors, they couldn't really fit 1 to 1 as to what they look like in the game because they're so fucking over the top. And it's the same here. I don't know who would fit better than him though. Do you have
Yeah.
anybody like that you could think of?
Dark hair, bulky fuck. Uh, Not really, man. Yeah, not off the top of my head. I just keep going back to wrestlers. It's the only fucking thing I get. But in really, even there, when I'm thinking about that, I'm thinking of 90s and 2000s wrestlers. It's like that's not that you can't cast 60-year-old men as Ryu. So yeah, I don't really have anybody. Um, but man,
I'll go 6. I think the heart of it is there. I don't think that that's a 1 to 1 fit. But these character models are fucking absurd.
and that's the thing too, is you also have to remember that someone like Akuma or someone like Blanca, these are big motherfuckers in the
Mm.
game, bigger than Ryu. So when you see Jason Momoa, who's a lot bigger than this guy, or you see 50 Cent, who's a lot bigger than this guy, or Roman Reigns, who's a lot bigger than that guy, the dude who's playing Ryu, it'll probably fit when you're watching it in film. So, um, yeah. Next up, we have dun, 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 Kalina Liang as Chun Li. And I think this is probably your perfect. This is the one 10 out of 10. And I'm not just saying because she's a hot chick, but like literally, it is like that you could absolutely see this chick playing that role. Throw that outfit on, and it's like, yeah, that's
Yeah,
that's actually great casting.
yeah. It's the type of thing of where they don't go usually as over the top with female characters,
Hmm.
so it can kind of fit with a film adaptation. Whereas with males, they kind of go a bit overboard. But yeah, I'd agree. It was a perfect fit.
And then you end up going to 50 Cent as Barlog.
I
And
need to see this. Oh God. Okay.
And like yeah, I can see this one as well. A big motherfucker, 50 Cent. Also, a thing about Barlog that I'm deducting from my great detective work here is that he's a boxer, Barlog. And 50 Cent was a boxer back in the day. He
Hmm.
was a like a amateur kind of underground boxer. So the ability to throw proper punches. I'm assuming that's something that comes with the character of Barlog. Um, so yeah, I actually I think this is like a solid 8 or 9 out of 10 as well.
Yeah. I mean, who else would fit the role? Like, it's that thing of he loves his flashy jewelry. So does this guy here.
Yeah.
That's a good fit. I'd go 8.
And then our final one up on the list, we have Andrew Schultz as Dan Hibicki. Um, so Andrew Schultz is a
Mm,
comedian, and I think a pretty damn funny comedian. He's had some specials that I've watched that were genuinely funny. I think he's a good like kind of roast comic or
mm,
a good sort of I don't know what you call it, but he's got like
wit.
the he's very witty and he also has the he does the crowd work really well. So
Oh,
he's
heckler.
very yeah, he handles hecklers well, but
Mm,
he's just very improvisational. Like he's
okay.
able to respond to shit quickly and on the fly. And once again, with acting,
Hmm.
I think it's probably best to have some, like, I'm assuming this is probably a comedic character, Dan Hibicki in Street Fighter. I don't know that, but I hope that this is a comedic character. I really hope that this whole entire movie is just a comedy because whether they know it or not, they're making a full blown comedy. Um, and so if you have like a quick, witty character that's good with banter and good with kind of creating those because some of the best moments in film history come from something that wasn't on the script, you know?
Mm. Yeah. I This is probably a 6.5 for
Yeah.
me.
Just a standard looking white dude with
Yeah.
brown hair. And yeah,
Just like
that's
he
a
fills a quota. Tick.
yeah, that's the token white man. Um, it's uh, here's the reality. When this was when I heard about a Street Fighter movie, I have zero point zero interest in that as a concept. Like if you were to put if we didn't see this cast right here and I didn't know Roman Reigns and 50 Cent and these if I didn't know Jason Momoa like if I didn't know that these characters or these, actors were going to be playing these characters, I would never watch this movie. I could not care less. But now that I see how ridiculous the casting choices are, I'm 1000% theaters. I'm this has become like a must-see theater experience for me. I will be there watching this movie because it's so fucking ridiculous.
Yeah. Um, I'll be keenly keeping an eye on it. I don't think I'll be going out and rushing up, but it does. I hope it'll be more comedic based as well. I think there's been a lot of adaptations where they take it way, way, way too seriously, um, and overcorrect in that way. I think just remembering that, especially with a Street Fighter game, like their plots are. I wouldn't imagine grounded and stuff like that is probably very absurd and over the top. So just keeping that tone similar and just having fun with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Street Fighter, they got their cast, and I think filming is going to begin in August. So look forward to some Street Fighter films coming to a theater near you. Next up, we go to the big dog from one Capcom game to another, two behemoths, both with films that are probably a little unintentionally funny. Um, Resident Evil 9. You will not be playing as Leon in Resident Evil 9. And I want to say before we even jump into this, skip this segment altogether if you haven't finished RE3 or RE8, because I have something that I want to bring up later as we're discussing this.
Okay.
Um, and so for anybody who's listening to this, go ahead and skip to the next timestamp to you know avoid spoilers for RE3 and RE8 because there is something that like
There's
I worry
zombies in
about.
there. Oh no.
So okay, Leon is not going to be the uh, main character in RE9,
Yep.
and uh, so right here I'm reading a report from IGN. Leon was considered for the protagonist of Resident Evil Requiem, according to the game's director, but they decided to go a different way because no one wants to see Leon scared by every little thing. So they're wanting to go much more horror, and with that main character, I believe, Grace, right? Grace
Hmm.
Ashcroft. They want her to be like terrified of every, bucket falling, they said, and like all the sounds. They want her to evoke, they want that feeling that the player has to be represented by that character and her reactions to the world around her.
Right.
I, Loon, tell me if you think I'm crazy. I still don't believe them, even after they said it directly. I went back and
Okay.
looked at the wording and I was like trying to see. They never said that Leon, they never said directly that Leon is not in the game. They never said directly that there's only one protagonist. They
Oh no,
never
yeah,
said
okay.
direct.
Yeah. No, he'll be in the game. You'll play as him. I thought you was gonna argue that he would be the main character. I was gonna be like, no. No, he'll do. You said like for spoilers for Arya, I can divulge a little bit, right?
Yeah, talking about Chris.
Yeah, it'll be a Chris segment
Exactly.
where it's a sliver of the game. I can kind of understand the thing I wanted to like pick at it, and because you may completely disagree with me, I find it a bit weird that that's their reasoning as well, though, for not going with Leon. Because I'm gonna be brutally honest here, I don't think Resident Evil, especially the newer ones, they've never really mastered horror from start to finish, if that makes sense. Like, they have segments in it that are really, really good,
Yep.
but they've never actually mastered it. And you had like that fact of like the closest they'd probably got to it, in my opinion, was with Ethan in Seven for the first time. There was a lot of stuff where he felt very vulnerable and stuff. But even then, like when you look back on it, some of the things are kind of absurd. You're being chased around a table with a guy with a spade. And
Yeah.
when you kind of like take yourself like that one step back out of it, it turns into absurdity rather than horror. Like you can laugh at it, which is what you shouldn't really be doing in a Resident Evil game. And the perfect counter to that of like what they've mastered with it was in Village with the segment with the what was it, the dollhouse thing?
Yep. The
I'm trying to
dollhouse.
think
Yep.
of the name, whatever it was. That segment is probably the best horror segment they've ever crafted, in my
Without a doubt.
opinion. But then you look at RE8 as a whole, and it's like that's one masterful segment in like an 8 hour game, 7 hour game. I hope that they're willing to lean into it. I just don't know if they have it in them to be able to hit that from start to finish. And I think it was kind of a little bit weak to say that he wouldn't be able to be in a horror, because you have horror experiences with characters who are capable. There's tons of uh, IPs that do it. So I think that was a little bit
Saga.
of a weak cop out for me personally, because it's that type of thing of like I would love to see an old Leon from start to finish.
Well, and that could be the narrative conceit as well, is that he's not as capable because he's 50 something years old. It's
No,
30
exactly. He's
years after.
vulnerable. Exactly.
Yeah.
There's tons of ways that you would be able to meld it and stuff like that, and implementing something into the story that limits his capabilities and stuff like that. But yeah, I also, because I don't want to shit on that entirely as a decision, because I also commend it. It's them turning around and going, Leon's a very well established character, and we're not afraid of exploring other characters. So kudos to them, because you have some IPs that don't shake, um, like named characters. They shackle onto them, and that's to their detriment. So there's positives and negatives to be gleaned from it.
I agree. It's the weird thing, Loon, where like if you look at Final Fantasy, Resident Evil, these are Grand Theft Auto. These are games that really are just a name and kind of a brand new experience. Resident Evil a little bit more lore dependent from like 1 to 6, but really since then, I mean 7 and 8 definitely have connections, but 7 and 9 totally like you can kind of play pretty much all of the Resident Evil games as a standalone experience without having to need RE2 and 3, Code Veronica. That era is pretty interconnected. Um, And then obviously, it just feels like at times there's a marketability and a brand recognition thing with the name Resident Evil. And so you're scared to create a new IP because it doesn't have that instant kind of fan feedback there. The nostalgia isn't there. The love for this thing isn't there. But Resident Evil 7 could have been named anything other than that last segment once again in Resident Evil 7 with the helicopter scene
Yeah.
and like that you could have other than
Other
that.
than like two notes in like the entire game, like it was very very light. Like if you didn't read them, you wouldn't know that. If somebody just handed you the game and you played through it, you wouldn't have been like, oh, this is a Resident Evil game. It didn't feel like it.
Yeah. And I'm just I hate to be this I'm not this guy. But it is somewhat disappointing to me where I'm like, yo, are we ever gonna get any conclusion on Claire, Leon, Jill, Chris? Like, I and maybe you don't need it per se. Like, there is some finality with RE6, but is that really the way you want that final fucking, in terms of the main canon narrative, like the final events of some of those characters to be kind of concluded in RE6 because for all we know, those characters are still alive. Leon, Claire, Jill, like, and all are from Raccoon City. I don't know if Claire's necessarily from Raccoon City, but they were all
They
in
were all part
Raccoon
of the
City.
event that took
Yeah.
place.
And so it's like, I just don't, listen, I could be crazy. And you know what, Loon? I kind of, this is cope. But I have seen Dusk Gollum also say this. And so and he's been pretty accurate. He's had some misses. So it's not a 100% track record.
Let's
But I
hear it.
remember Dusk Gollum is still saying Leon is the main character in this game. I don't know. I would tend to lean towards uh if Capcom is saying that the main protagonist is Grace, then maybe it is Grace. But Dusk Gollum,
I
he's got his ear to the streets, man.
so I have a question because you played Metal Gear Solid 2 back when. I think
Yep.
you picked in the lead up to that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there was no mention of Raiden whatsoever. That was like a bait and switch, right?
Total bait and switch.
We don't see that happen anymore because it's so hard to
Bro.
keep that under wraps. If they were able to do that where they're building up, building up, building up, and then it's just an hour segment with her, and then you play as Leon, that would be amazing. I would love that. Because
Yes.
I truly do believe, and this is like I understand them their reasoning for it, but I do think it's a weak excuse of saying, oh well, we don't want him being scared at everything. He doesn't need to be scared at everything. He can do what he's doing, but you as the player can still feel that fear.
Yeah.
Because to me, I'm racking my brain around it. He wasn't scared and really even vulnerable in Resident Evil 2's remake. He was fairly fucking. The only thing he does is poor decisions. That's Leon to a T. Like with Marvin, with the president in RE6 and stuff like. He hesitates. That is it. That's his personality. He usually hesitates to his detriment. I think
Yeah.
that's just his personality. So you could work that easily into a plot. He's capable. He hesitates. Um, but I don't. I think in this day and age, things get leaked so frequently. I think if they were going to try and pull something like that, if they've kept it under wraps this long, that's incredible. And if it is the case that he is and being the main character, that would be cool as shit to bait and switch because it would take you back to that Metal Gear Solid 2 thing of like, oh wow, that's amazing.
But the opposite though, where Metal Gear Solid 2, it was like you're leaving the character you love and playing as a character you
Mm.
don't know. Now it would be you're leaving the character you don't know and playing the character that you love. And it can and I'm not like some Leon, like it can be any of them. It can be Jill, it can be Claire, it can be Chris, I don't care. Throw whoever you want into that mix and I'll happily play as them too.
I saw your
Um,
Halloween costume last year. I know who
Yeah.
you favor.
I mean, no, Leon's probably my favorite character ever in games, just in terms of like not character writing or anything or character performance, but in terms of just a character that I
Just
love
love.
because it's
Yeah.
yeah.
I,
Um
yeah, he's an awesome guy. I would be very disappointed if that, because I'm speaking from me now, and regardless of what anyone else feels, I personally would be very disappointed if he gets like a 30-minute segment and that's all he gets
same.
in the game. And it's just like, I would want so much more. And I think I'm with you as well with that. There's core characters that have stuff that are still unresolved in this series, and if you're still bringing them forward, can we resolve some of them things? Like you can, it's fine to create new story arcs and stuff, but you've not finished the ones that you wrote like 20 years ago. Is what it feels like in some aspects. So it's a very strange series for that.
100%. They also stated that Resident Evil 9 started out as an online multiplayer game, but was, then scrapped. And yeah, they said that the open world multiplayer direction is not what the community wanted to see, so they returned to like the roots of horror. And yeah, thank God. Thank God. That does not need to be like the mainline thing. You know what I mean? That can be a thing, that can be a side thing, a spin-off thing, but it doesn't need to be the main thing.
Yeah, keep that for your little side project things like Reverse, where it doesn't impact everything else. Um, that would have been so catastrophic if after 7 and 8 you follow that up with a mainline entry and it's like, yeah, multiplayer only.
Yep.
That would have been the thing where, because Capcom is synonymous for just face planting. They get a few W's and then
Yeah,
they just, oh, shit. um, but yeah, keep up the good work, Capcom. Stop trying to think too hard. It's not good for you.
totally. Yeah, it does though make you think open world multiplayer. So two characters, huh? At least two characters. Interesting. Interesting. I mean, it could be anything, but I do think to like some outbreak style scenarios where it's actually a story driven experience where you're playing it in an open world co-op. And it's like, well, in that situation, you do have two characters that you're, or multiple different characters for the case of Outbreak, but at least two characters. If you're saying multiplayer, that at least means two. So is that Grace and Leon, Grace and Jill? Listen, I don't need to go on speculating more and more about this shit. We'll see it in February, but I'm really, really pumped for it. They showed barely any gameplay in their 5 minute thing. It's nothing to really even talk about. They show you swapping between third and first person. You see the big old hulking monster. Yeah, it looks fine. There's nothing to even evaluate. Like I can't say it looks incredible. There's nothing to talk about with the gameplay.
Yeah, it'll just be a wait and see thing. They don't. They keep things under wraps till quite late, if I'm not
Yep.
mistaken. Usually with RE games, like they usually announce them, they release them fairly quickly after the announcement, and then it's the same with like releasing information. It's usually fairly close to the release date, not obviously like a month out, but like they don't like long drawn out marketing campaigns. They kind of keep it, you know, tighten it.
Did I send you our monthly most anticipated playlist?
You did.
Okay, cool. All right. So we
We
are we're
are we're 2 hours and 48 minutes at the moment.
2 hours and 48. You
Yep.
cool with you
I'm
cool
just
with doing this last segment?
making you aware. Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay.
If you're
Okay,
happy to keep
cool.
on.
Yeah. Let's hit this last segment. Probably only take 20 minutes or so, and then we'll wrap this bad boy up. So, we last week we did a what we're playing section at the end of the show, and I was talking to Luna. I was like, it'd be kind of cool to throw at the end of the show just something a little bit different each episode, like what we're playing sometimes, different segment here, different segment there, and obviously, hopefully with Patreon and stuff like that, y'all can kind of create those segments for us.
Mm.
At some point, obviously, probably later on down the line, but regardless, whatever the fuck I'm trying to say here. It's
It didn't
my
make
nervous
sense this
energy.
week to talk about what we're playing because it's so close to the end of the month, which we do our
Yeah,
monthly ranking. So it didn't make sense to double dip on that and cannibalize it. So this is a
totally.
bit different.
Yeah, and it's also a thing where like it probably, in my opinion, it probably shouldn't be what we're playing every single week
Mm-hmm.
because we're going to be playing some of the same things from week to week. And so it's
Find
like,
your own
yeah,
games. Get out of here.
we'll throw different things in here just to make the show spice it up, make it fun for y'all. So what we're doing this month, and we'll probably do this at the end of every month if you guys like it. Once again, if you're like, I don't care about that, let us know and we'll fucking change it. Metacritic Monthly is what I'm going to call this. So we're going to be doing a fantasy draft, and it's pretty much just a way to talk about 10 games that are coming out that we're excited for, 10 games that are coming out just in general in the coming month to talk, see what's on the horizon, highlight some titles, and talk a little bit about the upcoming games that we are looking at. So this month we got a pretty solid list for July, pretty strong upcoming month of titles. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna how we do our fantasy drafts at the start of each year, where Loon picks a game, I pick a game, Loon picks a game, I pick a game, and we get to 10 total games. So 5 games apiece. And this time next month we'll come in here and we'll do our picks for August and we will reveal the winner of the picks for July. So the intention is to pick the 5 best games, and that'll be determined by adding up the scores of each game based on their Metacritic score and then dividing that by 5. And whoever has the higher score at the, when we do this next month in, late July, that will be the winner of the month. That sound about right to you, Loon?
Yep, sounds good.
All right. So we got a laundry list of titles to choose from here. I'll let you go first. What are you selecting first on the board for your Metacritic monthly July pick?
Hmm. It was a fairly weak month for stuff that I'll be interested in. So I was trying to balance that out as well. And I'm also I'll lean more towards a little bit heart picks as well because I want to see
Okay.
these do well. I want to see Eden's Zero do well. I'm gonna go with that first. This is the Konami RPG, right?
Oh, I did not know that.
I believe Konami's publishing it. I think, if I'm not mistaken, as well, I could be completely wrong. I think it's based on an anime, but it's good to see Konami kind of like get more involved again
Oh,
with
damn, yeah,
gaming and stuff.
it is Konami.
Yeah,
And it's developed in-house at Konami.
yeah,
Like
that's what
this
I
is
mean.
a
Yeah,
wow.
that's what kind of shocked me is seeing that and being like, oh, they are back. Good on them. Um, they didn't want to touch Metal Gear themselves, but they'll touch this. Uh, but yeah, it looks interesting. I'm not sure it will be a day one pick for me. It's coming. I've seen it listed on Xbox, so that I would assume PlayStation and Switch and PC as well. I assume it's going everywhere.
Yeah. And that is dropping in 17 days. It's dropping on July 15th for Eden Zero. So, all
Hmm.
right, first pick on the board going with Eden Zero. I'm going to jot these down
Mhm.
right now. That way we have everything to recap and go through next month. All right. So your first pick on the board is Eden Zero. You know what? If you're going to go with your heart, I guess I'm going to go with my heart as well. I have the obvious pick sitting right here staring at me, and I
Yeah,
hate that
I
I'm
did
just
as
giving it
well.
away to you. But I'm gonna go with Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4.
Ooh,
Listen,
I like
this
it.
is it's a very safe pick. I'm not gonna lie. There's no way this is scoring below an 8, even with them removing the pretty much the entirety of the career mode out of Pro Skater 4, but kind of giving you more of the time trials and having it be similar to 1 through 3 and just the structure. And a lot of people are upset about that, but it's just fucking fun. It's just moment to moment pure bliss when your hands are on the controller playing these Tony Hawk games, you're just going to be having fun. And it's I would be stunned if this thing slips to anything lower than like a 81,
Mm.
even with the complaints from the removing of content from Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4.
I would be sure because the first the one and two like re-release, remake, whatever it gets branded, that came out pretty strong. People seem to be very hot on it. So just getting more of that, I think people will just be happy, even if it is, like you said, removing the career mode stuff.
Absolutely. So round one, Loon selected Eden Zero, and I selected Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 and 4. We are on to the second round, and you are on the board, my friend.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna lock in the easy pick.
Yeah,
I'll take Donkey Kong.
for sure.
Um, never ever cared for Donkey Kong. I don't. When was the last time a Donkey Kong game came out as well for Nintendo? It's been a while, a
Yeah, it's been
very
a while
very
for like a
long
mainline
time.
one.
Um, but this is the destruction, right? You can break through stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's gonna be for me. Like me looking at it, it's like okay, whatever. But I think for a lot of Switch owners and stuff like that, I think they're gonna be clamoring for something like this. This is so
And,
totally up their alley, just pure fun, enjoyment. Keeping that old school DNA of just making sure the game is fun first, and that's all that matters. And yeah, this looks
yeah.
to be just like that. It just looks like it's going to be a good time for those that want to play it. Because God, what was that Mario game? Odyssey with the hat and
Yep.
stuff like that. That did extremely well. Which for
Well,
me,
people are
I don't
thinking,
care for it whatsoever. But it's the thing of like for the fans, they loved it.
and people are speculating that this is the Odyssey team who is doing this one. We don't know yet because Nintendo doesn't reveal that stuff. But like, if that's the case, and previews right now on it are really, really hot. There was a lot of trepidation, kind of speculation of the quality before people got preview access, but after people previewed it, they are really, really hot on this thing. So I think it's going to do. I would be stunned if it's lower than like an 86.
Yeah, I think this is just like a perfect Nintendo game. It's the type of thing as well of where they didn't launch with the biggest heavy hitter of like first party stuff. So this gives this also a chance as well. It's been so long for it just gives Donkey Kong his spotlight. If there was like a Mario game coming out, not obviously Mario Kart come out, but I'm talking like a mainline Mario game that launched alongside it, it probably would have potentially impacted this a little bit. But I think this is going to do really well.
Well, and that's the thing as well. Such a smart move on their part to launch Mario Kart as its own thing because
Yep,
it's going to suck up so much oxygen and then wait a month,
yep,
drop this because they could have easily had this together, both of the games ready to go at launch. But yeah,
yep.
really, really smart
Don't
business move.
cannibalize your own product. It's incredibly stupid.
For my second pick on the board, I'm going to go with that Eric's Home game.
Okay.
This, I know that people are like, what the fuck are you what the hell is Eric's Home? And I think there's like a sub. Is there a sub? Is it just Eric's Home? The name of the game?
Eric's Home, The Stolen Dream.
The Stolen Dream. Okay, I thought it was something stolen. Um,
It's not artwork, that's
so
for sure.
I've never really seen a game like this where it's like this kind of top-down isometric stealth game. And then it kind of looks like this typical sort of indie game, like an indie top-down isometric stealth game. It looks familiar in that sense. And
Mhm.
then it goes to the cutscenes and it's like fucking AAA production value. It's like what is happening here? It is really, really bizarre how damn good these cutscenes look in a, I would assume, like completely independent small scale game. um,
Mm.
just really, really interesting. I've never seen anything like that where it's such a drastic leap from, you know, what the gameplay looks like to what the cutscenes look like. And yeah, that kind of makes me think that they are cooking up something for this story that they really want to tell, and they want it to be told in like a ultra cinematic fashion that people are really bought into the story. So Shout out. Really, really odd. But I think that might come in with some real narrative weight that we're not expecting.
Absolutely, it's great. Kind of reminded me the gameplay of like Blades of the Shogun and stuff like that. But it's good to see these indie games kind of bridge that gap to AAA. Obviously, it's not there; it never will be there with indie stuff. But actually giving high quality cutscenes and stuff, which they would never be able to accomplish on the PS3 and Xbox 360 generation, and even struggling to do that in the PS4 generation. We've seen it really start to take off. I think the first game that kind of blew my mind and ripped my eyes open for it was Wasteland 3. Seeing a CRPG rip
Hmm.
you in and animate the mouth and stuff like that and be like, oh, okay, this is the future. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good comparison point. Um, all right, so second pick on the board for me, I got Eric's Home and you got Donkey Kong Bonanza. So
Oh,
let me
God.
silent my phone, that way it's not picking up on the mic. Third pick on the board, Loon, it is over to you, my friend.
You know what? I'll back Game Pass with this. I think Wu Chang is going to be a decent game. I'm not sure it's gonna set the world alight, but I
Yeah.
think it'll be a strong title. It's one of them things where with it launching into Game Pass day one, a lot more people will experience it, and I don't think I could be wrong. You can point me out if I'm wrong. I don't think there's many Game Pass titles coming out next month that would pull people away from it, right?
Tony Hawk, but that's a totally
That's a
different
different
audience.
genre. Yeah.
Um, there is also that Mecha Break game that I think is coming to Game Pass day one, but is somewhat similar, but still pretty different
It's
audience.
multiplayer, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is all single player, I believe, with Wu Chang. I think it'll do okay. It looks a little bit better than what was it last year? Flintlock looks a little bit better than that, and Flintlock did
You,
okay. So I think if it can do a little bit better than that, maybe sneak into the eights, just claw in there, hopefully.
yeah. And it's dropping late July, July 24th for Wu Chang. So it's got some, some real separation from
Hmm.
the other games that are dropping in July. So yeah, I hope it does well. I think it looks pretty generic, but I think that a lot of these games look pretty damn generic. So it's not like I'm the best judge of character when it comes to that genre. Um, okay, for my third pick on the board, I am gonna go I'm gonna go safe again, unfortunately. I'm gonna go college football 26. The first one cracked an 82 on Metacritic. I
Higher or
so
lower? What do you reckon?
here's the thing, Loon. I kind of think lower, but
Hmm.
I think the game's going to be better. And I know that sounds crazy, but there was such a yearning for this because of the decade-long wait with college football 14 being the last game before we got to 25. People were just yearning for more college football. And then they finally got it and they were able to look past a lot of the flaws.
Hmm.
And now I think a lot of those flaws will still be there and be obvious, and people aren't going to be nearly as receptive to it. Even though I do think like they have high school football returning in your career mode. The career mode just in general looks way better. The recruiting system in dynasty mode looks way better. It just looks better overall. But there are still going to be some of those inherent gameplay flaws that they haven't fixed, and people are going to be much more critical of that. So, going to take college football 26, and that one is coming out on, well, July 10th for college football 26. So I'm pumped to play it. I'm pumped to go through a career mode, have the high school shit returning, have the hopefully there's certain things that are just crazy that weren't featured in 25. Like they didn't have a soundtrack at all. It was just one song that played on repeat.
That is very weird.
Crazy.
Because you think back to all of the sports games of your youth, and it wasn't just the fact
Yeah.
that the games themselves were good, but it's the soundtrack. When you hear them songs play now, it's like, oh god, FIFA 12. What? or like NFL, whatever number and stuff like that. It just immediately sparks a memory in your head.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, its soundtrack is such a crucial part, and it was almost completely absent.
I'm gonna go and throw these guys the bone. I'm gonna go with RoboCop Rogue City, Unfinished Business.
There you go.
I think Nacon have found their niche, and they really need to stick with this. They can't branch out of this. This is the winning formula. Just get every 80s, 90s action movie and just remake that into like a game. I think that's what will be their success. Because these don't seem like they would command huge budgets, and they're fairly short, quick to make, and they're just fun. So I think this is going to be one. Because I don't know what the Metacritic score for that first RoboCop game was, but people loved it.
I love that thing, man.
Mm.
And they're doing a physical for the DLC as well. So I'm checking that out for sure. I think it's going to be released a little bit later, but I'll happily wait and grab the physical version.
Tip of the hat to
Um,
Nacon. Good on you, boys.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm really, really pumped to check that one out. I'm gonna pull up the release date for y'all real quick. I
That
don't think most
is
people
July 17th.
July 17th. Got it. Cool, cool. Just jotting these down. That way we can do a recap at the end and kind of let people know what's on the horizon for the video games. My fourth pick on the board, I'm gonna go with Ninja Gaiden Ragebound.
Mm.
I see no world where Ninja Gaiden Ragebound is lower than like 83, 84, coming from Game Kitchen, the people who made Blasphemous. It's just I think this is going to be really good. And it's also such a great kind of, it's going to build up a little bit more anticipation for the big game at the end
Mm-hmm.
of the year whenever they drop Ninja Gaiden Black 4.
Yep.
Uh, I think that this will kind of be that holdover little, let people get a little fix, and also just the top tier quality from that studio. I'd be stunned if this wasn't very, very, very high quality as well.
Yeah, I wish more studios would do this. The same thing happened with, I can't name who it was, but the Ayuden Chronicles team. They did like
Mm.
a smaller budget game before the big actual heavy hitter. Um,
Yeah, that was yeah, because they had the like it was more of
100
a
Heroes was one, I believe, and then there was another one. I can't think of the name, but there was a release that they did similar to like what this Ninja Gaiden game's doing.
Yeah, I think that's smart. So we are now at our fifth and final pick, my friend, and you are on the board.
I started with a heart pick and I'll end with a heart pick. They burn me every single time. That's not true. They burn me most of the time. Aspire. Never thought we'd see the light of day for this, but Dungeons and Dragons Neverwinter 2 Nights enhanced. I just hope that it's not buggy. That's just the main thing. It writes itself. It's not going to be something that appeals to everybody, but those that are wanting this really have wanted this. Um, so yeah, it's great to see it back. It's a little bit unfortunate that Beamdog weren't on this. I think they did a really good job of Baldur's Gate 1, 2, and that first Neverwinter Nights. So that disappoints me a little
And
bit.
that is dropping July 15th. It's really, I'm starting to look at July and it kind of is like everything is from the, you know, 10th onward. There's
Mm.
really not, like that first week of July is almost completely barren. But yeah, solid, solid pick, my friend. I will, I'm okay. So since you can't pick, I'll tell you the two I'm split between. I'm split,
How kind.
I'm split between Mecha Break, the big,
Hmm.
fucking mech battle, destructive environments, all that shit
Yep.
that's coming to Game Pass. I'm split between that and Wheel World, both coming to Game Pass. I I think I'm gonna go Wheel World just
Mm.
because there's too many things that could go wrong for the Mecha Break game. Anything that's completely online multiplayer dependent, You're going to run into technical issues. You're going to run into server issues. You're going to run into bugs and lag and like all of these things that can drastically affect the player experience.
Yep.
Whereas with Wheel World, you're going to be riding around on a bike and you're going to be. I wish they would have stuck with the original vision for the game, the darker kind of, what do they call it, ghost bike, where
Mm,
it's kind of leaning into the supernatural and sort of that crazy shit. Where this is more just slice of life, ride around on a bicycle. I think there's still races and stuff like
yeah.
that, and you can customize your bike. So it looks good. I'm not. If I get a 75 on this one, I'll be totally fine with that.
Yeah, it's also Annapurna. It's the type of thing of where it may not gel with wider audiences, but critics will probably favor it, I would assume. Annapurna games don't
Totally.
do too bad. Coming July 23rd.
July 23rd. And yeah, just for a quick recap for everybody who is listening, I'll run through all the release dates and all of our picks. So Loon's team is made up of Eden Zero at his first selection. That's releasing July 15th. Donkey Kong Bonanza was his second selection. That's releasing July 17th. Wu Chang Fallen Feathers was his third pick. That was releasing July 24th. His fourth pick was RoboCop Unfinished Business. That's July 17th. Fifth pick was Neverwinter Nights 2, the enhanced edition that is dropping July 15th. My first pick was Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4, that is dropping July 12th. Eric's Home, The Stolen Dream, that is dropping July 15th. College Football 26, that was my third pick, that's dropping July 10th. Ninja Gaiden Ragebound was my fourth pick, that's dropping July 31st. And Wheel World was my fifth and final pick, dropping on July 23rd. So those are kind of our most anticipated games of the upcoming month, games that we think will do well and sort of our teams that we're building going into next month of this head-to-head rivalry, this brutal to the death competition. And we shall see who comes out victorious. But that's pretty much it, man. That's the show. Close off with a nice little game and then hit us in the comments with anything we didn't select in there that you're like, hey, this looks fucking really solid. Keep your eye on some of these upcoming games, especially in the indie space. There's so much that just slips through the cracks. I'm always on the look for, that next indie game that is a 10 out of 10 that nobody's talking about. So
Absolutely.
keep it keep us in the loop, my friends. And yeah, hit us in the comments with your thoughts on the show, your thoughts on Resident Evil 9, Leon not being the main character, Xbox's layoffs, the future of Final Fantasy, all that good shit. Hit us in the comments and support on Patreon and become a YouTube member. Don't do both. Just do one. If you're going to support us, either pick a lane with Patreon or YouTube memberships. They offer the same exact thing, no differences whatsoever. It's just whatever you feel most comfortable using, use that and support us if you have the means. And if not, don't worry, free shit will still be hitting your feeds every single week.
Yep.
I'm out of oxygen, Loon. Take it away.
Alrighty. Well, yeah, next week it will be the same with the Ramble Report, and then I think it's what, the 27th now? Yeah, 27th.
Hmm.
I assume in the next coming days we'll have the monthly roundups going up. We'll probably
Yep.
give this a little bit of breathing room as it is a 3 hour video.
Hmm.
Maybe Monday if you're available, the
Yeah,
30th.
I will. Yeah, that's on the 30th. Yeah, we'll yeah, that available by the 30th for sure. I like having that available on the 30th.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, we'll have that monthly ranking up very soon as well. So lots and lots of good shit on the way. And if you want to hear me ramble about my favorite albums of all time, you can head on over to Patreon, drop in that YouTube membership, and you will find that over there. And I think next month is going to be, I'm going to do top 10 films or top 10 shows or something like that. So lots of good content all over the place. That's 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 about all I got.
You
I'm running
squeezed
out
us
of
for three
gas.
hours. That is it. We're spent.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a blast, man. I genuinely look forward to this show, and I know I said it last week, so I'm not gonna beat a dead horse, but I love this show. I love preparing for this show. I love recording this show. It is so fun to me. I really really enjoy. I don't I hate doing the news daily because it's such a, I'm waking up, checking my phone. It's before I got to go to work. Let me see if I can squeeze in a quick video, and like it's just, but having it all compiled up into one, it's just so chill, so fun. I love doing this, and it's always a blast shooting the shit with you about the video games, Loon. So thank you for handling the ones and twos. Thank you for doing all the production work, and thank all of you good people out there for tuning in. Check out Loon's channel in the description, and we shall see you in the next episode. Goodbye.